We'll be fine. Okay, we're going to have to start the meeting. I call the Stearns County November Planning Commission meeting to order. Angie will explain the little technical issue and then why we can proceed with even with the technical issue.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Angie Berg, Stearns County Environmental Services. As Jeff indicated, the meeting is being recorded. All of the applicants, all of the speakers are able to log in and give their testimony. There's an issue with broadcasting the meeting live, but we are still recording it and we will upload it later to the county's website. And I did confirm with the attorney's office just minutes ago that this was acceptable. Thank you.
And Heidi's going to share why we're meeting this way.
In response to COVID-19 and pursuant to Minnesota Statute Chapter 12 relating to emergency management, Governor Walz has declared a state of emergency. In response to the state of emergency and in accordance with Minnesota Statute Chapter 13D.021, Planning Commission members and applicants may participate by phone or electronic means for this meeting.
We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with item number 1.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sure.
If I may, to expedite things just a little bit, at our Park Commission meeting and then earlier today at our Tri-County meeting, on the mundane things, for example, of closing the public hearing, I think if you could call all those in favor, say aye, and then or you can just say opposed. If you get no opposed, you can assume that it was unanimous. That might just expedite a couple of minutes.
And that's a staff issue. If we can do that or not. I know at the Great River Regional Library Board meetings, they say we have to do the roll. So Angie, do we do the roll or what do we do?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, I did catch part of that. And my understanding from reading the statute now several times over the last 6 months is that a roll call of all members is required for votes. I would say your safest bet is to do that for tonight. We can certainly confirm that with the attorney's office for our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. But other meetings have not been following that protocol. I'll just let you know that.
I guess, they should all be informed if it's one way or the other, that everybody's doing the same thing. We'll start with agenda item number 1, Sherman Farms, consisting of a 2 residential lot plat, and Heidi will do the staff report.
To consider a plat entitled Sherman Farms consisting of 2 residential lots submitted by Ben Klink, Sauk Center, Minnesota, on behalf of Gene Sherman, Sauk Center, Minnesota, according to Stearns County Subdivision Ordinance number 230 and Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. The 33.56 acre plat is located in part of the southeast quarter, section 5, part of the northeast quarter, section 8 of Sauk Center Township, part of the northwest quarter, section 9, and part of the southwest quarter, section 4 within the city of Sauk Center, lying west of Ferry Lake Road and County Road 17 and northeast of the Lake Wobegon Trail. So this plat is currently located partially within the city of Sauk Center and partially within the township of Sauk Center. It's 2 residential lots consisting of 33 acres. The part within the city of Sauk Center is going to be detached from the city and become township. And the city has approved that already. They did send us a resolution approving that. And the township has approved it too. Within the plat, they do show septic sites, primary and secondary sites for both lot 1 and lot 2. There's an existing building site on lot 2 or lot 1. The impervious surface is met with those lots. There's no wetlands within the plat. There's no registered feedlots within 700 feet of the plat. There's an existing access to County Road 17, which will be used by both lots, so an easement will be needed for Lot 1. Stormwater management is not required for this plat. A small part of the plat is within the Shoreline Overlay District of Hoboken Creek. It's also located within the drinking water supply management area for the city of Sauk Center, and notice has been sent to them. Park dedication fee of $250 is required, and Sauk Center Township has reviewed and approved the plat. The platting committee recommended the following conditions. Number 1, a declaration of restriction required stating that in order to protect the 2 soil treatment areas on each lot, they shall be maintained in an undisturbed and natural state. Number 2, a subdivision agreement stating the following. Construction site best management practices shall be required. In order to protect them for sewage treatment use, the 2 soil treatment areas shall be staked and roped off prior to any ground disturbing activity. The developer is hereby made aware that an NPDES construction stormwater permit shall be required if 1 acre or more of land is disturbed as a result of construction within the plat. The soil borings on the property indicate groundwater table or evidence of redoxamorphic features within 6 feet of the natural ground surface. Therefore, the bottom floor elevation of a residential dwelling within the plat of Sherman Farms shall be restricted to 1 foot above the groundwater table. The plat of Sherman Farms is located in an ag area, and the construction, expansion, and operation of animal feedlots and other ag uses are permitted. Number 3, a declaration of restrictions for the equivalent land area is required. A water supply verification is required for the nitrates. That has been submitted. A highway certificate from the county highway department is required, and a MnDOT highway certificate is required. An ingress, egress, and utility easement meeting the county's easement requirements shall be submitted for Lot 1. Parkland dedication fee of $250 is required. A deed for the residual property is required to be submitted with the final plat. Detachment from the city of Sauk Center for the portion of the plat within city limits shall be completed prior to final plat approval. An affidavit of survivorship and death certificate shall be recorded prior to the final plat or submitted with the final plat. The NSP power line easement shall be confined or identified on the final plat. And a 20-foot utility easement for the overhead power line coming off Ferry Lake Road, County Road 17, over the unplatted and platted property shall be submitted with the final plat, shall be for the benefit of the platted property and reference the plat.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. We'll do which members visited the site. So when I say your name, if you did, say yes. If you didn't, say no. Jason Wienerman,
Yes.
Sean Blackburn,
Yes.
Jason Crone is not with us tonight. Ken Mossman,
Yes.
Mike Perrell,
Yes.
Richard Frankish,
Yes.
Joe Purdy,
Yes.
and I did too. Heidi did the staff visit. The applicant introductions, I understand Ben Klink and Gene Sherman are going to join us via GovX or WebEx tonight. So you with us, Gene?
Yeah, we are present tonight.
Yep, I'm here.
Do you welcome? Do you want to add anything to the staff report?
Not at this time. No.
Okay. Any questions by the planning commission at this point?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. One question regarding the plat review committee notes. The notes indicated the conservation district recommended an erosion plan. And then the plat review committee felt this wasn't appropriate. Could somebody explain the discrepancy in there and how that comment was resolved?
I was at the meeting, but Heidi, remind me, I remember talking about it, but remind me of the details.
Yeah, that was brought up with the soil and water comments, having a stormwater plan. The ordinance does not require a stormwater plan for this size of a plat. And I believe the plating committee felt there's one new lot that was going to be built on the other lot is already constructed on. So I didn't really feel that this project warranted a full stormwater plan above, what the ordinance would have required. So they decided not to recommend that.
Okay, thank you.
I brought up the issue on the utility easement, helping them with Excel. Ben, have you heard anything from Excel on the easement?
Yes, they identified that on the west side of Beltline Road, and they sent back documents to that, and I forwarded that information to Heidi.
Okay, and you didn't have any issues with them at all or anything?
No, it was smooth working with them.
Okay, because my concern was sometimes they drag things out or don't answer questions, and if we're going to make a requirement, I just wanted to make sure they cooperated with you guys, so.
Yep.
Open a public hearing. There's no one here in person for the public hearing. Is there anybody online that would like to testify on this item? On agenda item number 1, the Sherman plat. Is there anyone here from the public online wanting to testify? If not, motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I move we close the public hearing. I will second that. That's Rich.
Sean moves and Rich seconds. I assume, by the way, there's no correspondence.
Mr. Chair, the only email I got was another confirmation from Sauk Center Township that they did approve and fully support the plat.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. I'll do the roll. Jason Wienerman,
Aye.
Sean Blackburn,
Aye.
Ken Mossman,
Aye.
Mike Perrell,
Aye.
Rich Blankish,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Just for clarification, the Commissioner Persky does not vote on these items here. He'll save it for the county board meeting. Further discussion on the item?
Mr. Chair, question on the plat. I heard it mentioned about access to lot 1. And I'm looking at the diagram that we had, actually the one with the yellowed outline. How is that lot going to be accessed? Because it appears, to be just an island up there as far as the property sits.
Heidi will answer that.
Yep. They are planning on using the existing driveway to lot 2, and they'll have an easement over that driveway up to that property, up to that lot. So that will access via a 33-foot easement.
Okay. I'm just thinking, down the road, 30, 40 years, how that will affect the development of the town and as that area expands. Just curious how that'll all play out. But okay, so it'll be on the existing driveway that comes in, which is along the edge of the property of 2, and then angle off, I suppose, to the north, then up to that lot 1.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussions before we do the findings? If not, then with the findings, number 1, does the proposed plat conform to the county's comprehensive plan?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. Yes, it does. Under the future land use map, the agricultural, rural, and natural resource overlay area. And goals and objectives. The living goals, number 1, collaborate with cities and townships to maintain sustainable growth patterns. And goal number 2, to manage the impacts of growth on development of the county's rural character and natural resources. And also goal number 3, support housing options that give people in all life stages means for viable choices for safe and stable housing options.
Number 2 is the proposal consistent with existing county subdivision ordinance.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, it is consistent with subdivision ordinance 230, sections 5 and 8.
Item number 3, are there any other standards, rules, or requirements that this plat must meet? It sounds like somebody's remodeling the kitchen. Maybe you want to mute yourself, who's ever making all the noise. I'm sorry, go ahead on number 3.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, the 13 conditions as contained in the report.
Number 4, is the proposed plat compatible with the present and future land uses in the area of the proposal? And does Lisa score scenic views? It's consistent. Number 5, does the plat conform to all applicable performance standards contained in county's land use and zoning ordinance?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. It does, and those areas where there are questions are addressed by the conditions.
6, how are the potential environmental impacts being resolved? Stormwater, erosion, wetlands, floodplain, shoreline.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. There's erosion control in the subdivision agreement construction site BMPs, and also there's a groundwater concern that's also being addressed within the conditions.
7, has information been provided regarding the impact of property values in the areas and the result of the proposed plat?
Mr. Chair, this is Rich Blinkish. There has not been any information in regards to impact of property values.
Number 8, have the potential public health, safety, and traffic generation impacts been addressed?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, this impact is going to be minimal.
And how does the proposed plat affect existing public services and facilities, including schools, parks, streets, and utilities?
He just has, our name just got lit up. Does that mean we have to?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, again, it's going to be a minimal effect in that.
10, other issues pertinent to the matter. I think the fact that the city and the township both signed off on it would be pertinent. Anything else? 11, planning committee recommendation. The recommendation was for approval. So with that, the board meeting is not scheduled because until the certain other items are identified, the plat conditions, when they've all been met, then the county board meeting will be set hopefully this year yet. So the findings done, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Mike Pearl, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the 13 conditions.
Second, Jason Wienerman.
Okay, motion's been made by Mike, second by Jason to recommend approval. Any discussion? Not, the roll, Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Osman.
Aye.
Mike Perrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Recommendation is made to the county board for approval. Thank you, Ben and Jane.
Thank you for considering this.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Item number two.
You also.
Thank you. Item number two, Larry and Helen Krippner, Kimball, interim use permit. Heidi?
To consider an amendment to interim use permit 2001-0018 submitted by Larry and Helen Krippner, Kimball, Minnesota, according to sections 4.18, 7.17, and 9.2.6D of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 to extend the expiration date and to allow for crushing in the Agriculture 80 zoning district. The proposal is located in part of the south half northwest quarter of section 9 line west of County Road 48 in Main Prairie Township. So their existing permit was issued back in March of 2001 to mine gravel on 23 acres of this property. Those conditions are listed in your staff report. They are requesting to extend permit, which is due to expire in March 15th of 2021. They want to add another 20 years onto that application or that permit. And then they also want to allow for crushing. And that's, actually, they want to add 30 years onto that request, not 20. So zone 80, it's within shoreland of an unnamed tributary to the Sauk River. There's wet property and the mining operation won't impact those wetlands. Let's see. They meet all of the ordinance requirements with the existing pit. The current application or permit does not have set hours of operation. They are, in their application stated crushing would be 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Surrounding land uses and zoning, it's agriculture 40, agriculture 80, and the town site of Marty is nearby. Approximately 26 homes and 2 feedlots within a half mile. Let's see. Proposed conditions to set an expiration date, they're requesting March 15th of 2051. Processing and crushing material should be allowed within the mining operation and shall be limited to 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The applicant shall submit, maintain a financial guarantee in the amount of $80,500 to ensure the reclamation will be completed in accordance with the proposed plan. The 75-foot vegetative buffer be maintained along the creek. And that's all that.
Okay, we'll do the site review.
Heidi, question on that hours of operation. What about Saturdays?
Let's do the site visits, Joe, and we'll get into that when we ask the questions, if you don't mind. Let's do, if you were at the site, indicate that you were. Jason Wienerman?
Yes.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
Yes.
Mike Perrell?
Yes.
Rich Blankish?
Yes.
Joe Perkey?
Yes.
I was there. Heidi, you were going to go. Did you get there?
Yes, get there.
Okay.
Last week.
Let's do the applicant introduction, and then we'll get into the questions. Larry and Helen Krippner join us by audio. So are you with us, Larry and Helen?
Yes, we are.
Could you please state your name and address for the record, please?
My name's Larry Krippner. The address is 10915 County Road 148, Kimball, Minnesota.
Are you alone or is Helen with you?
No, she has a parish council meeting this evening, so I'm alone.
There you go. Okay, just for the record. Anything more you want to add to the staff report, Larry?
Not really. Just the question in regards to that Saturday operation, there will not be any operation on weekends.
Okay,
Larry, in fact, since your wife's at the parish meeting, that's what I was concerned about Saturday church and making sure that things are quiet on Sunday too. I know how things operate out there. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And while we have you here, say on the site visits, I do want to say that memorial looks very nice. That was very well done. Just a tragedy that we had out there, and appreciate you stepping up to have that memorial placed out there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. On this, one thing I'd like to probably state on this memorial thing, I don't know if it's kind of confusing or not, but originally our pit was approved for the whole 23 acres there. And now with this memorial, we've got a row of trees planted there, and I made a dotted line. We're not going to exceed, that mark towards the road for the privacy of the memorial.
got it.
So that'll just be basically in grass or probably alfalfa or clover, seeding at all times.
Okay, we'll have questions from the commission. Have there been any complaints, Heidi, during the permit?
No, we haven't received any complaints on the gravel pit.
Okay, and then normally, don't we do it through the end of the year instead of March? Don't we do the December the year, or doesn't that matter? I thought we always did it at the end of the year.
I think we started doing that, yeah. Yep, so we could December 31st
So
of one, if you want to do
well,
the 30
if we
years.
agree with the 30, right?
Yeah.
30 is a little bit of a stretch. I'm not totally against it, but especially with the crushing, it's always good to kind of keep these in the review, but members can weigh in on that. So any discussion from members on the item?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wiener here. 2 questions, one for staff. So there's the $5,000, what was the $5,000 they required? Has that changed in the past 20 years?
Yes, that has changed. So originally they were required for the financial guarantee for reclamation was just the $5,000 back in 2001. Since then, several times we've changed the amount that we want for or need for reclamation, has gone up over the years. And so now we are at $3,500 per acre
Okay.
for reclamation. So that's why there's that big in that cost. Or that amount.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And then for the applicants, the conditions have 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Would you be okay if we were to 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday? Add
That's
that to the
perfect.
condition? Okay.
That'd be perfectly fine.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll open up the public.
Jeff?
hearing. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep. Question for for Larry. Are you going to do any other kind of crushing, like of concrete, rubble, or bituminous, old bituminous, or anything like that in the pit?
That's what the crushing was concerned about. I mean, our soils aren't really adequate for going like class 5, but just in case the soils would change to a little bit more of a clay base, that's what we were going to, anticipate. That's why we wanted to include the class 5. But for right now, I mean, it was going to be basically for the crush, the concrete. If you've been out to the site, you've seen the pile of concrete that we've had there. And way back in 20 years ago, when I first got this permit approved, that was the big thing, is all about recycling. So that's kind of what we've been just accumulating over the years. And now we'd never had it included in our permit before, but we'd like to include it now so we could utilize and recycle the concrete that we have down there.
Okay. Another question, and this is open for everybody. Previously, within the last year and a half, I believe it was, when we had a discussion of crushing concrete, there may be reinforcement metal in that concrete. And I think at that time, we talked about that scrap metal should be hauled out on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
That should lay around there for 4 or 5, 6, 10 years. It should be processed out.
Mhm.
Any other discussion on that?
I mean, if that's some of this accumulated, that the iron that you see on a pile, yes, is accumulated, over the years from job sites and stuff like that. Yeah. And to be real honest with you, when the price was halfway reasonable that we could at least get our, our trucking costs or the dumpster costs, we were moving it out of there. But the last couple of years, it's been more of a negative thing, as far as cost wise go, that it costs you money over and above, and we'd like to at least get our costs covered. So as far as the pile that's there, yes, we've discussed that already. When I know Heidi, I don't know, I didn't meet with her on the site, but I met with Jennifer on the site way back when, and she said that could be possibly an issue. And yeah, if it needs to get hauled out of there, we will haul it out of there. It's we've been contacting some places where we could haul the scrap to already.
Can think about that, and when we do the conditions, we can nail that down. Good point, Rich. If there's no more questions, we'll open up the public hearing. No one's here in person. Is there anyone online that wants to testify to this item? Is there anyone online? Not, motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Richard Blankish, I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Motion made to close the public hearing.
Jason Wienerman, second.
Jason seconds it. No correspondence, I assume.
Right, that didn't receive any written correspondence.
Motion's been made, seconded, to close the public hearing. We'll do the roll. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Ron Blackburn.
Aye.
Osman.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes. Discussion, any other items on the discussion?
Mr. Chair, you alluded to talking about the 30-year request. I don't know, have we gone 30 years on that? I would be very comfortable with 20 years. Just looking down the road as things environmentally change, communities change, I would by all means think that, Larry is going to be a good steward of the property, and so there wouldn't be any issues there. But nevertheless, if we're going to go to 30 years here, that I don't know, that would that stop us from letting people just continue to ask for 30 years. So I would be more comfortable if we stay with 20. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'm with Joe on this one.
I think 30 might just be a little bit of a stretch, especially with the crushing. We just like to keep things in check a little bit. And we also have to keep in mind it goes with the land. And so I don't think any of us question Larry's intent, but the chances that someone else might be involved with it is greater, obviously, the further out we go. So I too would feel more comfortable with 20 years.
Mr. Chair, Ken Mossman here. There is on the sheet we have, there is a 25 and a 30 and a 35 year list. Oh, these has been done before.
And that's accurate, Ken. Those are further, longer ago, and then some of them we were on a condition when some of those were done. So it is a variation, and we kind of look at where they are and what activities, if it's strictly mining or what it'll be. So, but it's certainly when we do the conditions on the findings, and we'll have to come up with a number so we can make a motion. Okay, with that, any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll go to the findings. No other discussion. The findings of fact is the proposal consistent with the existing county ordinance performance standards.
Mr. Chair, Rich Blinkish here. It is in compliance with the land use zoning ordinance 439, section 4.18, 7.17, and section 9.2.6, letter D. A mining operation is allowed as an interim use in the Ag 80 zoning district.
Number 2, are there any other standards, rules, requirements that the proposal must meet?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. The 4 conditions, and I'd recommend modifying the time condition to reflect 20 years and the hours of operation to reflect 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay, that's what we'll go with. 3, is the proposed use compatible with the present and future land uses in the area, can be separated by distance or screening from adjacent land uses.
Mr. Chair, there's enough distance between this crushing site and the surrounding areas that there's not any additional screening needed.
4, are there environmental concerns, groundwater, surface water, air quality, wellhead protection that should be addressed as part of the proposed request?
We do have a creek down there, and they are accommodating it with the buffer. But I don't know if it's worth mentioning that we do have the creek that's down there.
Okay, I just thought of it when we did 20 years, Heidi. We didn't see an actual date. It's December 31st, 2040. Yeah.
Okay.
So I just thought of that. We should say an actual date. 5, has information been provided regarding the impact of property values?
Mr. Chair, Rich Blinkish, no, there hasn't been any information in regards to the impact on property values.
6, what potential public health, safety, traffic generation impacts would the proposal have in relation to the area and the capability of the road serving the area, and how are they being addressed by the proposal?
Mr. Chair, seeing as this is a continuation of existing interim use permit, there should be no change to the site.
7, how does the proposal affect general health, safety, welfare of the residents?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn. Again, there's going to be very little change.
8, does the proposal conform to the goals and objectives of the county comprehensive plan?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn. It does conform in the nature goals when we look at to ensure the reasonable and responsible use of the county's natural resources, as well as to protect the county's aggregate resources and provide for reasonable economic use of aggregate, and nature goal number 2 and 4.
9, how does the proposal affect existing public services and facilities, including schools, parks, streets, and utilities?
There may be a little bit of an impact on that memorial, depending on how many trucks are hauling gravel or crushed stone or whatever out of the pit. But other than that, no change.
10, the applicant provided financial assurance to guarantee reclamation or cleanup.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead, Sean.
Sean Blackburn, yes, $80,500 has been provided as a financial guarantee.
11 other issues pertinent to the matter. I would say that the use is currently in existence. With that, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, I move we recommend approval to the county board for the interim use permit with the 4 modified conditions.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'll second that motion.
Jason moves on seconds to recommend approval to the county board. That'll be on their December 1st, which is going to be held in the evening, by the way, because that's their truth and taxation meeting. I believe the meeting starts at 4:30. The motion's been made and seconded to recommend approval. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, Jason Wienerman?
I would like to ask again, is there going to be anything in the conditions in regards to hauling the scrap metal out of the pit? Are we going to require it on an annual basis that it's removed? Because we did this to another operator, and we need to be consistent.
Thanks, Rich. I forgot about that. I think personally, I think that's a fair, annually, I think would be a fair request and would be consistent with what we're looking at. And what Larry says is accurate, which I believe it is. It'll be done. It's kind of been stockpiled. Now it's going to be done all at one time. Certainly don't want that laying around for 5-10 years or something. So I understand the value part of that. But so personally, I'd be in favor of saying annually.
So, Mr. Chair, then Sean Blackburn, do we make an amendment to add a 5th condition then to state that?
That's what I'd recommend. Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
Sean?
I was going to move that we amend that to change it to 5 conditions.
Jason accepted it as a friendly amendment. You're the seconder, so you obviously accept it as a friendly amendment with the motion to recommend approval. So the roll, all that, Jason Wienerman?
Aye.
Sean Blackburn?
Aye.
Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Perrell?
Aye.
Rich Blank?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Recommendation is made to the board for approval at their December 1st meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Item number 3, amendment to the interim use permit submitted by Joel Imdick. Heidi, we'll get the staff report.
Okay, to consider an amendment to interim use permit P-013657 submitted by Joel Imdick, Melrose, Minnesota, according to sections 4.18, 7.17, and 9.3.6D of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 to extend the mining area an additional 10 acres in the Agriculture 40 zoning district. The proposal is located in part of the northwest quarter in Government Lot 1 in Section 15, lying east of County Road 13 in Grove Township. So the interim use permit was originally granted in August of 2019 for mining 4.4 acres. And now they are requesting to add an additional 10 acres. So they have more room for stockpiling and whatnot on that property. The existing conditions are listed in the staff report. The property is within the drinking water supply management area for the city of Melrose. So notice has been sent to the city and the Soil and Water Conservation District. They were also noticed back in 2019, and they indicated no change to their comments from 2019, and the existing conditions took into account their comments. So those have all been addressed already. There's wetland on the property, but they will not be impacted with the mining operation. There's no change really to any of the performance standards from their last permit. Area is A40, mostly agricultural land in the area. Suggested conditions. One, that all of the conditions of the previous IUP shall remain in effect. And the second one, the applicant shall submit and maintain a financial guarantee in the amount of $50,400 to ensure that the reclamation will be completed in accordance with the proposed plan. And that's all that I have.
Okay. Did you do a site visit, Heidi?
I
Okay.
that was just yesterday.
And where's the site say you were Jason Ruderman,
Yes.
Sean Blackburn,
Yes.
Ken Osmond,
Yes.
Mike Pearl,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Berkey,
Yes.
and I was too. Applicant introductions, Joel and Sarah Imdick were going to join us. Are you with us, Joel and Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, you want to state your names for the record and address?
Joel Emdick, 36008 County Road 13, Melrose, Minnesota.
Sarah,
Yes, she is.
okay. Just for the record, in case she says anything, just state your name and address for the record.
Sarah Emdick, 36008 County Road 13, Melrose, Minnesota.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add to the staff report?
No, not really.
Okay. Any questions by commission members at this point?
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification for me. So their current permit's 4.4 acres. They're looking to go up to 14.4 acres, right? That's the total number of acreage they're looking at?
That's the way I understand it, Heidi.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we're approving the right number.
Okay. Any other questions at this point? Otherwise, we'll open the public hearing. Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Understand that we have one person for sure that's with us. If you want to identify yourself, name and address for the record, and share your comments, now would be the time.
Hello. Hi, this is Elizabeth Coons, and I
Okay.
live at 3254 County Road 13, right next to the Index over there. And
Okay.
with me is my friend David Thorson, and he does not live here, but he is just listening in on the conversation here. He's here frequently, so he's familiar with the neighbors. Just the night sky, just I guess the mining operation is what we're talking about.
Okay, go ahead and share your comments.
Well, I just want to share my comments. I really haven't gotten a chance to talk with Joel over it, but the lights from the mining operation are just completely light up the night sky, which is not, to me, good environmentally for the animals or even the bugs. But it just, I can see it from my house here in my yard. And so I guess that's bothersome, and sometimes I do hear it. Although now it's winter, I'm not outside as much as I am, and didn't as much notice the light up of the sky until now as it's gotten darker, obviously. So I guess I am kind of concerned really about my night sky. I look at that night sky all the time. And I just think that the lights nowadays are just very, very bright. And the sky glow, I can see it coming from Melrose. And 10 acres coming towards me is just too close because I didn't realize, I was told it would not impact me particularly. And when I called the first time before they started the mining operation over there, but now as it's become fall, I can much more notice it. It's just always out my window, honestly. So I don't know if they can turn the lights a different direction, but my biggest concern is I don't want it coming closer. I have mining in back of me and all along County Road 13 all the way down to the next road. And I just don't want to be an island out here. So I guess that's part of what I have to say on that. We're kind of in a migration zone, so that night light affects them. And I know that the night light has increased in our state by 2.2% between 2012 and 2016. So it's just becoming a much greater problem in our state. And I guess I feel that working until 10 o'clock in the evening is what I was told that they're operating until, but I just feel it should be at an earlier time and maybe not on Saturday. But
Okay. Members, anybody have any questions of Elizabeth?
Question, Elizabeth, Commissioner Persky here. Do they exceed the 10 p.m. as far as use of the lights? Has that been a problem, or does it seem to be by 10 o'clock things are shut down?
you know, I haven't honestly paid that close of attention to what time they shut down. I am been trying to go to bed much earlier, but I really don't know. Do you have something to say? Oh, yeah. And the increased truck noise is all what I was trying to say before. But I really don't know if they're shutting down by 10 p.m. I kind of wish it was earlier, especially through the summertime when you want to sit outside and be relaxing and
not here.
Yeah. I just know from Meyer's pit over there too. I just hear it all the time, and I think that's coming to the expiration of their pit. I'm not sure, but yes, I guess that's all I have to say at the moment. I haven't paid as close of attention. I just opened a letter like 3 days ago.
Any other questions of Elizabeth by commission members? Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Is there anyone else online that wants to comment? No one's here in person. Is there anyone else online that wants to comment? If not, Elizabeth, we're going to be closing the public hearing here. If there's something else you want to say, once the public hearing's closed, you can't say anything more. So unless you're asked a question, if you want to share something else with us, now would be the time.
I guess I don't want the pit to come any closer to me. It's already loud and the light is quite bright. I don't know if they can use a lower light. It is quite annoying. If you would come here in the evening and see the sky glow, like I said, on my drive from Melrose, I can see it all the way down the road. So it is a huge sky glow, and it does disturb the night sky. If I want to look out my window, I see light, bright light. So
Okay, thank you.
I guess that's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. I assume no correspondence?
Pardon me?
I'm asking staff, was there any correspondence, any letters, emails?
Mr. Chair, I did not receive any written correspondence.
Thank you, Heidi. So no one else from the public is with us to share anything? No one else from the public, so a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I move we close the public hearing.
Okay. Motion's been made by Sean, close public hearing. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, second.
Jason, seconds, closing the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, we'll do the roll. Jason Wienerman,
Aye.
John Blackburn,
Aye.
Ken Mossman,
Aye.
Mike Perrell,
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Public hearing is closed. Discussion by planning commission members.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, question for the staff. Have we ever added a condition regarding lights?
Not that I am aware of. I don't recall ever adding a condition about lights.
Okay, thank you.
Is, if I remember a year ago, the county was the main contractor in pit. Well, is that still the case?
The county did crush a pile. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
The county did crush a pile this summer, and Craig Cheetah of Cheetah Excavating also is in the pit, or operating in the pit.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about the light issue?
I guess it really hasn't bothered me, but she does live on the hill. You know, I don't know if how familiar you are with the area. You know, further up. But until, you know, daylight savings time, I guess they really didn't use lights much, you know. But I have never stood in her, you know, I can't say it isn't. I've never stood in her yard when they're on. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And as far as
Mr. Chair, maybe we could just clarify the hours of operation at this point.
What are the current hours of operation?
The current hours of operation are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 6 days per week with no mining on Sundays or holidays.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Ken Mossman here. Maybe they've mined an awful lot this last year that it's all crushed and on a pile. The next year, the lights during the nighttime might not be as much, because I was just looking at their permit and they were permitted for 30 years on 4.4 acres, and they've already outgrown that permit that they want to expand. So there's been a lot of gravel taken out of there in 1 year.
And I do believe once you get more down into the ground and you're not on top, it probably will be less of an issue. You know.
Okay. You're familiar, Joel, I assume there's been some concerns from Frank about the line, the setback, 30-foot setback. You have something, Frank shared that with some of us. Do you have something you want to say about that?
As far as that, I didn't follow it, or?
I think he's concerned on the pit to the west, which is a different issue. There were some issues, and then on this one, there is supposed to be a setback, Heidi, right? 30-foot setback?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
And
there is.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joel.
And we did have a 30-foot setback off the property line, which is staked.
And I think there's some dispute about that what I'd recommend, especially if the county was in, I remember that normally when the contractor has is doing the contracting, like Central Specialties or Knife River, the one out of Hollingford, I can't remember, those are the most often ones. They normally come before us. And I remember a year ago, I asked, well, why isn't the county here making the application? Because they were the ones that were going to be doing the work. And you evidently have two contractors in there now, but we certainly want to make sure that if it's the county, I'd recommend on that west pit that doesn't have nothing to do with this, that you and Frank and whomever from the county would get together, Jody Teich, and make sure that that's accurate or not accurate, I guess. I know that a staff member said, well, it's a civil issue. I disagree with that, because again, I don't think the first thing you have to do is say we're going to sue somebody. Nothing that grown men and women can't figure out. And then especially if the county highway was the contractor, I think they'd want to make sure that everything's on the up and up. It looks like Angie wants to say something.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So I was just going to make a suggestion that one of the conditions the Planning Commission could make on this pit would be to require that southern line to be surveyed. That might be an option in case there's discrepancy in where that line is. And secondly, yes, the issue that Joel and Frank are having is on a different pit, and so that would be not subject to any decision tonight.
Right, and the current, my comments were the current pit, to make sure that that is identified correctly, that issue doesn't come up again. So the surveying might be the way to do it. And then two, just as a matter of practicality, because we were here a year ago when we did this, just to encourage that they meet and figure that out, I guess. So members can decide if they want to make that a condition at some point. Any other issues by commission members?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here, just a process question for the applicant. So it sounds like there are people or companies who you work with on a contracted basis to do the mining. So are they the ones who are in charge of the equipment and the processing on the mine, or do you maintain any of that?
Are you talking to me?
Yes. Yep.
If I do any of the maintenance or anything on the equipment?
Well, no. So there was the question about the lighting. So
okay,
are you the one who maintains the lighting and that kind of stuff, or is that the
consultant? No, like when the county crushed in here, they subletted it out to some Fritchie out of Rice, and their workers do the lighting and they do all the work. I don't do anything. I just make sure they're not mining where they're not supposed to be, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions by commission members?
Mr. Chair, on the last application, we had talked about that WISMA, and wondering with expanded operations, has that become any more of an issue for the city of Melrose?
Did the city of Melrose didn't share anything? I know last time they didn't share anything this time.
Mr. Chair, I did reach out to them and I did not get any new comments from them this time. And I also reached out to the Soil and Water Conservation District because they also review applications within the DWISMAs. And they were good with the comments they provided last time with the expansion. That didn't change their comments. And there are a few conditions that were added last time to address those comments for the DWISMA area. So nothing new was received from either entity this time.
Heidi, will those comments then be added to this expansion as well?
Yes, we propose that all of the conditions from their current permit will follow through into this permit. So all those conditions listed on the first page of the staff report will follow through into this permit.
Good. Thank you.
Okay,
Can I speak yet or not?
yes, you can.
Just one verification, Jeff, that southern line along Frankie Index property and the line along Buck's property, or Chris Bauer, that is surveyed. I mean, I had it surveyed. So we know exactly where the line is, with the mining now,
Well, then that probably just share the survey then would be the condition. And if you've got it surveyed, I think again.
Go ahead. I had Frank out there and I showed him exactly where the line and everything was, so, it was professionally done.
Right. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. Part of our responsibility is we want to minimize issues. So the best way we can do that for everybody's purposes is the best thing. So when we hear things or concerns like the lighting or anything else, we just want to make it the best we can for everybody. And I know you would too, and certainly know your mom and dad, I know they would want to too. I had no issue. I think you had some perception I had an issue with it a year ago. I did not. In fact, I thought they were trying to require some things for you that were above and beyond, especially the fact that the county was in there. So I had no issue. Obviously, there have been sand pits there. Your neighbor who you bought, Dick Imdick, I think started the first sand pit, and then Elmer Imdick had one, and the sand pits have been there forever. So we just want to make sure we minimize conflicts and not increase. So if the survey's been done, then we could make it a condition that you share the survey with the staff. And of course, I share it with the neighbors. I guess that would certainly go a long way. And again, the other pit that's to the east, I believe, the acres, or I got my directions turned around. Again, can't require anything there, but they always said the best, how do they say that? Can't know that he's a farmer, a fence line. The best to keep two neighbors is a good fence line. So whatever, we can do that as a condition, then that the survey is shared as long as you've got it done. Any more discussion on?
Mr. Chair, a question for the staff. If we were to add a condition recommending that light pollution leaving the site be minimized to the best extent possible, is that something you could operationalize, or is that too difficult to implement on a reasonable basis?
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, Angie Berg. So the county does have standards in the ordinance for lighting and glare. And so what we would need to do is work with Mr. Imdick on ensuring, well, it would be his responsibility, landowner, pit owner, to ensure that contractors coming in are following the lighting guidelines. Because what I heard him say is that they bring their own lighting systems in, which may not comply with the ordinance in terms of glare and lighting. And so you've never done it before, but that doesn't mean that you can't. On the screen, I have highlighted Mrs. Coon's property. She's the blue. And then here and with the arrow is the proposed mining operation in that area. So if you wanted to make that a condition, it would be that they follow section 7.15 of ordinance number 439, and they would need to adapt their operation to meet that requirement.
Okay, thank you. I'll keep that in mind, and I hope that if I do make that amendment to the minutes, to the conditions, you can remind me of the ordinance number.
And oftentimes, I know when we've dealt with lighting issues before, it's a simple thing of turning the lights down a little bit. If you know it's a sensitive issue, the contractors can just not maybe have the bulbs slanted up high, bring it in closer to what they're trying to light up and then turn them downward a little bit, but obviously at some point we'll have to bring it to somebody's attention. Any further discussion? If not, we'll do the findings.
Yes, can I say some yet?
Oh, sure.
In the beginning, she said 50, what did you say, 50,000, 51,000? Bond? Did you guys have it on your paper?
Well, Heidi can repeat us.
Yep, it was $50,400, which is $3,500 per acre.
But that's on 10 acres. I already paid you on the 4.4. 3,500 times 10 acres is 35,000.
I guess that will be up to the planning commission if they want to have two separate financial guarantees for two different amounts. That will be.
So then the 11th, sorry.
Yeah.
Then the 11th.
If you did the 50,400, then your 11,000 would no longer be needed. That 50,400 would cover the $3,500 per acre for the 14.4 acres.
Okay, so you can't just give another 35,000. You want it all in one bond at 40 or 51,000. You're saying.
That's what staff has proposed. Yes.
Okay. All right. I was just okay. I was confused by that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, the findings. Number one, is the proposal consistent with existing county ordinances?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn. The proposal is consistent with the Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439, Sections 4.18, 7.17, and 9.3.6D. A mining operation is allowed as an interim use in an Ag 40 zoning district.
Number two, are there any other standards, rules, requirements that the proposal must meet?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. There are the two provided in the staff report, and I'd like to add the recommend condition that they follow the lighting glare ordinance as cited by Angie earlier.
And you want to state that ordinance, Angie, the number?
Yes, it's section 715, ordinance 439.
That's the one.
So that would be condition number 3?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And then condition number 4 would be to share the survey with staff. Okay. Anything else, members? 4, are there environmental concerns, groundwater, surface water, et cetera, that should be addressed as part of the proposed request?
Mr. Chair, the concerns will be addressed by the previous and current conditions.
Has information been provided regarding the impact property values in the area as a result of the proposal? No, it has not. 6, what potential public health, safety, traffic generation impacts does the proposal have in relation to the area?
Mr. Chair, there should be no change.
7, how does the proposal affect general health, safety, welfare of the residents?
No, Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, there may be minimal effect on that.
8, does the proposal conform to the goals and objectives of the county comprehensive plan?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, it does conform to the nature goals when we look at to ensure the reasonable and responsible use of the county's natural resources. number 2, as well as number 4, to protect the county's aggregate resources and provide for a reasonable economic use of aggregate.
Did I skip 6 or did I do 6?
You did 6.
Okay, just got confused here for a little bit. 9, how does the proposal affect existing public services and facilities, including schools, parks, streets, utilities?
Mr. Chair, Rich Blinkish here. No change on that.
10, has the applicant provided financial assurance guarantee reclamation or cleanup? He will. Do you want to clarify, Heidi, how that's going to be then, if it's one bond, for how many acres and for how much?
Yeah, staff proposed $3,500 per acre for the 14.4 acres, which would be a total of $50,400.
And then the part that he's already paid.
That we can release that 11,000 once we receive the new one.
Okay, so you'll get one new one and then you'll release the one that he got a year ago.
Correct.
Got it.
Mr. Chair, Ken Mossman here. Do we have to change number 10 then? Number 10 says 35,000, says 3,500 an acre for the 10 acres. Which
We probably should change the 10 to the 14. Good catch, Ken. Okay, the change has been made. 11, other issues pertinent to this matter. Okay, nothing. Then motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve. This is Rich.
There's a second.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'll second that. I want to be sure that we mention that there are 5 conditions now.
Correct. So the motion was made, seconded to recommend approval to the county board at their December 1st county board meeting. No further discussion. We'll do the roll. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Ken Mossman.
nay.
Mike Correll.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So the recommendation to the county board is approved.
Mr. Chair, if I could just ask, I know when we're at the county board, they're always asking for what the nay vote, the reason for the nay vote. I might need a little help with that, Ken.
So I'm just asking, he's 1 year into, we just had one that the people asked for 30 years and it was turned down and made 20 years because that was, well, how could we make 30 years 1 year ago? And he's already used up pretty much all the gravel in that 4 acres that he's asking to use more acres. So something's wrong. He needs to slow down or else we say we have to do the same for everybody. Well, we just turned down a 30-year, and this guy got a 30-year ago. So I'm just kind of sticking with the people in my neighborhood that when they ask for something, they don't seem to get it. But up there where the people, everybody has a gravel pit, what they ask for, they get. The lights shine all over. Well, live with it. And I went by there and that looked like an awful big pile of gravel out of 4 acres. But now he's asking 1 year into it. Maybe he should have asked for 10 or 15 or 20 acres last year, but I guess that's my reason for the nay vote.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Joel and Sarah, for being with us, and Elizabeth. We'll go to the next item, agenda item number 4, conditional use permit submitted by Minnesota CSG 29 on behalf of Howard and Penny Covert. Staff report?
To consider a conditional use permit application submitted by Minnesota CSG 29 Wayzata, Minnesota, on behalf of Howard and Penny Covert, Eden Valley, Minnesota, according to sections 4.8, 6.52, and 9.3.5 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to construct a 1 megawatt solar garden in the Agriculture 40 zoning district. The property under consideration is located in part of the southwest quarter, lying north of Meeker Stearns Street in section 34, Eden Lake Township. So this is for a 1 megawatt solar garden. There was a 1 megawatt solar garden CUP approved in May of 2020 that has not been constructed yet. But this would be a second one on this property. Property is not within any areas of concern or overlay districts. The wetlands have been delineated and they will be avoided with this layout for the second solar garden. Let's see, there's no rare plant or animals, native plant communities, or other rare features within 1 mile that are mapped on the Natural Heritage Information System. The area's tilled field that slopes down to the west. All setbacks are met. Power and communication lines will be underground up to the point of interconnection. $125,000 decommissioning financial guarantee will be required. There's no vegetative screening proposed. There will be a 7-foot chain link fence. The ground cover is required to meet the beneficial habitat standards, and a financial guarantee for that is required. The land evaluation site assessment score is 77.14. And proposed conditions. Number 1, a qualified engineer shall certify that the foundation and design of the solar panels is within accepted professional standards prior to issuing a construction site permit. Number 2, submit manufacturing specifications for all equipment prior to issuance of a construction site permit. Number 3, a financial guarantee in the form of a cash escrow or letter of credit in the amount of $125,000 shall be submitted prior to issuing a construction site permit to ensure proper decommissioning. The permittee shall notify the county at least 1 year prior to decommissioning of the solar farm, and an updated decommissioning estimate shall be provided at that time. The board may increase the financial guarantee required for decommissioning upon application to amend a conditional use permit. Number 4, the applicant shall install and establish ground cover meeting the beneficial habitat standards consistent with Minnesota statute section 216B.1642 and guidance as set by the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources. Cash escrow or letter of credit in the amount of 125% to vegetate the project area is required. Ground cover shall be maintained for the life of the project and continue meeting habitat-friendly solar standards. A seeding plan review and inspection fee will be required to be paid prior to issuing the construction site permit, and that fee will cover the review of the seeding plan, inspections for the first 3 years after planting, and every 3rd year after that. Environmental services shall be notified when the site is seeded and who the contact will be for inspections. And number 5, environmental services shall be notified of any changes to project ownership, including new contact information. The developers shall make the landowner aware of all conditions related to the conditional use permit. That is all that I have.
Thank you, Heidi. We'll do the site review. It doesn't indicate that there was a staff site review. Was there a staff site review?
Mr. Chair, I was out there back in May with their original application.
Okay, thank you. Members, if you were there, I see you were. Jason Wienerman?
Yes.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
I was there in the past. I didn't go again this time because I've been there 4 times already, so.
Okay. Mike Perrell?
Yes.
Rich Blankish?
Not this time, but the previous times they have been there.
Joe Persky?
Likewise, I was there prior, but not on this application.
I was there both times, including this time, so. Just one clarification before we get to the applicant. In the agenda, it says Minnesota CSG 29. And in the report, the agenda item, it says Solar Club 13. Is it the same company or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it is the same. That was Solar Club 13 was the May application. So that was just a typo on my end.
Oh, okay. I thought it was two different companies. Evidently, we have Chuck Reisner, I assume, from Solar Club 13 with us. Are you there?
I am here, Mr. Chair. Good evening.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Certainly. Chuck Beisner, 4974 Interlochen Drive Northeast, Alexandria, Minnesota.
Do you want to add anything to the staff report?
Very little for the sake of time, as staff did an excellent job, and this was, as she mentioned, very similar to a solar garden that you unanimously approved in May, and then was subsequently approved by the board. So at this time, I have nothing else to add.
Okay. And just for the record, that one was approved under the old comprehensive plan, and now we've gotten a new comprehensive plan. So
understood.
The members, any discussion from the members?
Mr. Chair, Rich Blinkish here. Just a question on regards to the Lisa score. Is that on the 8 acres that the solar garden is going on, or is that on the whole site? All the property?
Mr. Chair, that would be on the whole property that was done on.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, question here for the applicant. So in terms of the decommissioning plan, it sounds like when the site will be decommissioned, you're going to remove all the material from the site, the panel poles or structures just basically get popped out of the ground. So if I understand what we're looking at, following the decommissioning and the removing, if the current or future landowner goes ahead, sprays Roundup on the site, kills the pollinator site, and tills it up, that can be very easily converted back to farmland, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone, there's no one here in person. Is there anyone online that wants to weigh in on this? Please say something. Is there anyone that wants to speak? If not,
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I move we close the public hearing.
okay. Motion's been made, close the public hearing. Can I get a second?
Jason Wienerman, second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, members in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye when I call your name. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Ken Mossman.
Aye.
Mike Burrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. When I was out there, I don't think I saw any, there was snow on the ground, so I didn't see any ground activity. How long do the permits hold until such time as, do they expire because of lack of installation for staff?
Conditional use permits have 1 year to be used or started, I guess, and the applicants can request a 1 year extension on that, ultimately giving them 2 years before they have to actually start construction on the project. or start the use on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Besner, how many projects do you have in Stearns County?
This would be our fourth and final.
Okay, how many do you have in the state of Minnesota?
State of Minnesota, we have 37.
Okay. Jason's question on the Lisa score, if it was to the site or not, that's an interesting question. I've never heard that before. So do we do the actual site Lisa score then? So if the Lisa score is over 77 for the property, what's the solar project Lisa score then?
Mr. Chair, we've done the Lisa score for the whole property for these to date. That's how we've been doing them. That is a change we can make if the Planning Commission would prefer to see just the solar garden area score and not the entire property. That's certainly a change we can make.
Mr. Chair,
Angie
this
Berg,
is Rich Blinkish. I asked the question because I'm going to get the name wrong here, I suppose. Was it Stamer, the gentleman where we had over an 80 rating on a Lisa score, and they were putting part of the solar array on the cropland, and then part of it was going into a wetland? Remember that one a few months ago? And then it came to light that the Lisa score was going for the 80 acres and we're only using 8 acres. And then we had turned it down because of the high Lisa score. And then when it got to the county board, things got changed around because information was changed also. So that's why I was asking, just to get clarification, what the actual land that the solar array is going on, what is its Lisa score? I think we need to be specific about that.
And I'm sorry, Rich, I forgot you asked it. I thought Jason did. It's been a long day and a long night. It's a good question. And the reason, and you remember it very well, because I watched that public hearing and I was totally caught off guard that all of a sudden information changed and the board was getting different information than we're getting. So I guess that's a good question. When it goes to the board with whatever recommendation we make, what is staff going to tell them what the Lisa score is? Because tonight you're telling us it's 77.
Mr. Chair, I'll comment on that. Heidi and Jen and Shelley and I met today in preparation for the December Planning Commission meeting, and we agreed that we're going to do the Lisa score on both the solar farm site and the property. That way you can make a comparison on whether or not the area where the solar farm is indeed a high score as well. I think at least we can learn from that. The numbers may be skewed because when you do a Lisa score on a smaller property, it doesn't always equate to the same, but we would like to at least present that information to you going forward. And as for your question, Mr. Chair, and if we're asked by one of the commissioners to provide a Lisa score on just the solar farm area in preparation for the December 1st meeting, we would do that. If the Planning Commission wants a Lisa score on just the solar area, you could certainly continue this and we can come back with that information.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just so you're aware, the request that for the Stamer application, the request to look at the Lisa score for the smaller area came from a commissioner. So that's why we added additional information. It wasn't that it was an intentional change for the Planning Commission, but it was specific information after they had requested a public hearing that was asked of me to get that Lisa score for the smaller area. So that's why we provided additional information to the county board, because they had asked for it.
Okay, then let's do a hypothetical. Then somebody's going to ask for it. So what's the Lisa score for the project?
So what we should do, and this is, Mr. Chair, what I was going to talk to you tonight about with wetlands was having this conversation about looking at the full site area, the full property, as well as the specific project area. And I think having those two pieces of information would be helpful when we talk about resources and as well as the Wetland Conservation Act. So at this point, the only LISA score that's been done was on the whole property, and that's the 77. So it will not be a lesser number than that at this point that I could see, but I could be wrong. Heidi might know more about the LISA and how a smaller area would be affected.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to add.
Just for the record, Angie, that was Shelley Benson, the director that was speaking. Yep, go ahead, Angie.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So, as I said, it's certain we're going to talk about this later during the public hearing process, but you all bring up very good points. And again, you do have the right to continue an application, and we would be happy to supply that information for you. And moving forward, you will see that in future staff reports, both the LISA for this project site and the LISA for the property.
Thank you, Angie. And I think the Stamer one was not continued, so obviously the information must have been asked shortly before the county board meeting because, it was a couple-week period and it never came up, but that's fine. And the Stamer one's probably, Rich, a great example or a terrible one because remember there it was a high LISA score and it was built in a wetland. So it really affected really didn't matter what the LISA score was 100% because it was in a wetland. So, and then now we find out that I asked the question, they're not going to raise the fence and they're not going to remove the barbed wire from the top of the fencing as we all heard, or the ones of us that listened to the meeting, they were going to do for the wildlife issue. So I think we have to, that's where we have to zero in on these conditions because we assume it's in good faith and then it ends up not being that way. So in the decommissioning discussion, Mr. Bisner, that you have proposed here, there's some talk about the recycling market and everything. I'm sure you're aware of this. If anybody would have said that the recycling market 5 years ago would be where it is today, I think nobody would have believed anybody. And so I'd be hesitant to put any stock into what value of certain recyclable products are today because it's volatile as heck. Cardboard used to be $180 a ton. I think you're lucky if you get $30, $40 a ton today. So it's extremely volatile, and the metals and plastic glass, I mean, there's no value. So I know these are boilerplate submissions, but you might want to just at least be aware of that when you're doing that. And then on page 2 of the decommissioning plan, opening statement, you say the disposal is going to be at an appropriate licensed facility. Where is that licensed facility today, Mr. Bisner?
Today, I believe there's one in Wisconsin and one in Illinois, but correct. 25 years from now, there may be many more. And we understand that we're doing our best to guess what the future 25 years from now will be.
And of course, I would assume you know that Minnesota, the state of Minnesota, hasn't licensed a disposal facility or landfill since 1970. So 50 years, there has not been a landfill sited or constructed. And, again, that's a fact. However anybody wants to take that, I guess that's. Okay, any other discussion items from members, questions? If not, you can do the findings. Number 1, I'm having trouble with my paper. Is the proposal consistent with existing county ordinance performance standards?
Mr. Chair, yes, it is, with the Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439, sections 4.8, 6.52.2, and 9.3.5V, with solar farms being an allowed conditional use permit in the A40 zoning districts.
Number 2, are there any other standards, rules, requirements that the proposal must meet?
Mr. Chair, this is Rich. Yes, there's 5 proposed conditions they must meet.
Number 3, is the proposed use compatible with the present and future land uses in the area? Can it be separated by distance, screening, adjacent land uses?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn. I'm going to say that this proposal is not compatible. The LESA score is much too high. And in addition to that, basically what we're doing is we're taking a spot where we had, and I begrudgingly okayed a 1 megawatt solar farm, but now there's 2 megawatt solar farm basically happening here on this, bordering this wetland and on far too good a farmland.
Mr. Chair, I would say it actually is compatible with the site. My thinking's evolved on this when we're talking about what we're looking at here. The applicant is basically converting the site to CRP and then putting solar panels on it. So I think if we think CRP or other kind of programs are acceptable on these sites, then I think the solar farm would be acceptable as well, because you're not actually converting the use to a long-term change, and it can be easily restored once the site is decommissioned.
4, are there environmental concerns that should be addressed as part of the proposed request?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wiedemann here. I believe they'll be addressed by the cited conditions.
5, has information been provided regarding the impact property values in the area?
No, they're not. No, there has not. This is Rich.
Number 6, what potential public health, safety, traffic generation impacts of the proposal in relation to the area?
Again, that one would probably be little to none.
7, how does the proposal affect general health, safety, welfare of the residents?
That would be minimal or none.
8, does the proposal conform to the goals and objectives comprehensive plan?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I believe it does under clean energy policies, number 1. Siting solar energy systems in a way that reduces conflict with adjacent land uses. And clean energy policy goal number 2, continue to require beneficial habitat ground cover on solar sites.
I think it doesn't. Under the agricultural goals, does not comply. Number 1, support agriculture's desired land use long-term to facilitate diversification of the county's agricultural economy. Agricultural goal number 3, it does not conform. Retain areas with highly valued agricultural land or economically viable animal agricultural operations. 5, it does not apply. Strengthen and retain areas of highly valued agricultural land or economically viable agricultural operations. And under agricultural use policies, number 4, it does not comply. Encourage sustainable agricultural practices that protect prime farmland and water resources for future generation, with a LESA score of 77.14, and with us losing 14% of Stearns County ag land between the last comprehensive plan and this one, I don't believe it complies. Number 9, how does the proposal affect existing public services facilities, including schools, parks, streets, and utilities?
Mr. Chair, there should be insignificant impact.
10, has the applicant provided financial assurance to guarantee reclamation or cleanup?
I believe that's listed as one of the conditions.
11, other issues pertinent to the matter. I think can't remember, I'm not going to try to guess or remember who said it, but I believe it was Sean, where this is unique, where we've approved 1 megawatt, and now we're doing another megawatt by the same company, but 2 different projects. I think that just should be noted.
Mr. Chair, I agree that we should mention that they're abutted, that the 2 solar farms are abutted, yeah. I got a comment about that after we're done.
With that, findings are done. Motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend denial of this conditional use permit request.
Motion's made by Sean to recommend denial of the request. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, Ken Mossman.
Motion's been made by Sean, second by Ken to recommend denial of the request. Any discussion? If not, the motion is recommendation of denial. So if you're in favor of it, say yes. If you're not of the denial, say no. Jason Wienerman?
No.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Perrell?
Aye.
Rich Blankish?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So the recommendation to deny is granted. The county board will take this up at the December 1st county board meeting. Okay, item number 5. Consider a rezoning request submitted by Michael and Diane Ullman, Cold Spring. We'll get the staff report.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to comment though.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Joe.
Yeah, that's okay. Here we had, again, the second solar array going in next to the first. They were both under 1 megawatt, so they benefit from the fact that they don't have the tax burden because they're 1 megawatt or less. But nevertheless, they're two from the same company. But more so too is that they both become high, revenue generating more so than the ag property. But yet now as a county, we're going to be assessing them, property taxes as ag. Again, we've got to, I think the board has got to address, that issue. And I would like to make sure we take care of that in 2021.
Well, and you're in a great position to do that, Commissioner Persky. I think you've got a lot of agreement with the Planning Commission. We'll be watching you from the distance. So item number 3, Heidi, staff report, 5, the staff report.
To consider a rezoning request submitted by Michael and Diane Ullman, Cold Spring, Minnesota, according to section 4.10 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 to rezone approximately 10 acres from the A40 zoning district to the residential 10 zoning district. The property is part of the northwest quarter, southeast quarter line north of 202nd Street in section 31 Main Prairie Township. So this is a rezoning request on 10 acres to go to R10 to be able to split one additional residential parcel. Property is accessed from 202nd Street. It's a mixture of tillable land and woods. There is a feedlot register for less than 10 animal units to the south. And so there are no feedlot setbacks that apply to this request. There's approximately 21 homes and one registered feedlot within a half mile, and the surrounding area is mostly rural residential lots and agricultural land. Surrounding zoning is A40. The property is not within any overlay districts or areas of concern. The land evaluation site assessment score was 72.95. And that was on just the 10 acres that they're requesting to rezone. Main Prairie Township did recommend approval of the rezoning. And that's all I've got for the staff report.
Thank you, Heidi. We'll do the site visits. Members, if you visit the site, say yes. Jason Wienerman?
Yes.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
Yes.
Mike Perrell?
Yes.
Joe Persky?
Yes.
And the chair was also there.
And Rich says yes.
Okay. I was going to skip you to see if you'd know.
I'm awake. That might not look like it, but I'm awake.
I'm trying to do, somebody's trying to get in on the meeting and they can't, so I'm trying to text them to tell them what to do and trying to do this, so I'm sorry. The staff visit was done.
That was a couple weeks ago.
Yep, the staff was done by Heidi, November 2nd. So the applicant introductions, Michael and Diane are Omen are supposed to be with us. Are you with us, Mike and Diane?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, state your name and addresses each, please, for the record.
Michael Oman, 12576 202nd Street, Cold Spring, Minnesota, 56320.
Okay.
Diane Oman, 12576 202nd Street, Cold Spring, Minnesota, 56320.
Okay, thank you. Anything you want to add to the staff report? Mike and Diane, is there anything you want to add to the staff report?
No.
Okay. Any discussion from the members? Questions or discussion? Hearing none. The public hearing, we'll open the public hearing. No one is here to share anything. Is there anyone online that would want to share something on this item? Is there anyone here or anyone online, I mean, that would want to share something on this item? No correspondence, Heidi?
Mr. Chair, I did get an email from Gary and Jody Schneider wanting to be added for the public testimony for this meeting. Last week, I responded to their email and they never got back to me. So I don't believe they're online, but they had reached out. And we reached out back to them and then they never got back to us. So.
We need a motion to close the public hearing, guys.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, so moved.
Okay,
Rich
we got a
Blankish,
motion.
second.
And we've got a motion, Jason, second by Rich, to close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn. Sean? Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Correll?
Aye.
Rich Blankish?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Sean Blankish, or Sean?
I'm
Blackburn?
sorry. I had left the room for a moment. What did I miss?
Voting to close the public hearing, aye or
Oh,
nay?
I'm with that then. Aye, certainly.
There you go. Thank you, Sean. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion on the items? We get a little punchy as the night goes on.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. Just a question for the applicant. So there's that 10 acres in the southwest corridor you're going to be looking to rezone. I'm assuming there's an intention to put a house on that site. Where would you likely consider putting the house, or have you not gotten to that level of planning yet?
Well, if she brings back up the satellite photo, you can see that there's woods on the upper part, and it would be just off of that. I don't know, I can't. You see that it would be right at you can see where the woods gets larger there. The proposed site is right kind of in between that little tiny woods on the very top and then the bigger section there. That little area right there is where the house site that we would be planned to go.
And then I couldn't tell when I was out there, but is that farmland? Those cleared areas?
Yes. We do rent it out to a local farmer.
So then the local farm would probably lose what, 5-6 acres, or they'd have to rent it from the new landowner.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
I think whoever was doing the arrow, was that Heidi? Angie was, that blue arrow. Is that where the building site's going to be? Angie, where you pointed that blue arrow?
He's on mute.
Who is?
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to make a few things happen here. So based on what the applicant was indicating, I was putting an arrow on here for discussion. I'm not sure exactly if that is the area, but he could certainly ask me to move that around if that is not the correct location.
Sure. Are you going to get that arrow back again?
Yep.
There it is. There it is. Michael, can you see that blue arrow?
Yeah, go south a little. South a little bit. Yep, okay, now east a little bit. A little more, a little more, a little more. Yeah, it's kind of, if you went south, just a little bit more south and a little bit further in. It's right past that little woods section there, and then there's kind of a little opening right there between the two woods. That's where the site, that's the building site. Kind of right.
You're going to build it completely within that wooded area.
Well, kind of in front of it. There probably wouldn't be much loss in the wooded area at all. It's going to be further south of where the arrow's at, and then south just a little bit more there, and then straight. I'll go a little bit further east. Right, there's that little wooded area there, and then there's a little opening right in front of the arrow. That's where the house would go. Right in there, right where that white is.
I'm not as concerned about the woods as I am the farmland.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't build or take any of the farmland?
No, there wouldn't be any of the farmland. The house would not be. That's right. And more than likely, what's going to happen is the new owners is going to be my daughter and her husband, and they're likely to lease to the same farmer the wooded, the field. I would suspect that maybe they're going to put a couple of lines of trees behind, but it would be minimal loss in agricultural usage.
And I don't think we can put a condition on or a requirement of that, can we? Well, that obviously would be a greater concern. Some people build a house on a property like this and they make 10 acres of lawn out of it. They take it 100% out of agricultural use.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Well, it won't happen with your daughter, but we can't say what's going to happen with the next owner of the property, but that's good to know at least it's not going to happen the first time.
That's correct.
We were trained, maybe I'm too foolish, but I actually listened to what we were trained in by staff, and they always told us, don't look at the person that's in front of you, look at the person, the next owner of the property. So we just want to make sure that with a Lisa score of 72.95, that we're not taking 10 acres of, well, or 7 acres of farmland out of production. So it's good to know that your daughter doesn't have that intention. Okay. Any further discussion by members? Not. We'll do the findings. Number 1, does the proposal conform to the county's comprehensive plan? Why or why not? Future land use map, policy area map, goals and objectives. Members, I need your help here.
Mr. Chair, I would argue that it does not. The future land use map is agricultural, rural, and natural resources overlay. And part of the comprehensive plan goals is that agricultural residential use policies, residential uses in the ag areas must embrace the comp plan's future land use factors to minimize conflict between adjacent land uses and natural resources. I would argue it's in conflict with that, in that we're, as you mentioned previously, the discussion that future landowners might convert the full 10 acres to non-ag production. And also that residential, I lost what I was at. Oh, they say the same thing. So I would argue it is not in conformance with the comp plan.
Okay. Number 2, is the proposed rezoning compatible with the present and future land uses in the area? Present zoning, proposed zoning, future land use, Lisa score, scenic views, rural character.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn. It's just kind of a carryover. It carries over from not conforming in 1 for the same reason it's not compatible on the same boundaries. The lesser score is too high. It kind of falls into basically a category of like a spot zoning area. We don't want to see this farmland law.
3, are there environmental concerns that should be considered as part of the rezoning request?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. As previously stated, it's the ag, the value of the ag land. In addition, the housing locations right adjacent to the woodland site, which would have potentially detrimental impact to wildlife moving through the area.
Mr. Chair, I may interrupt. Back to Sean's comment. Angie, can you put page 119 up? I guess I'm looking at the aerial that shows the surrounding. On my computer, it shows 119. Okay, but it shows much larger view of that. It shows the adjacent properties. Do we have another one similar to that? There we go. You know, as far as compatibilities and looking, take a look to the north of that, and also to the southwest or southeast of that. I guess my opinion would be, how much different is that than those other homes that we see there? I mean, for the sake of argument, is it similar in nature to those developments? And I don't know when those were developed.
Mr. Chair, this is Councilman, and I'm very familiar with that neighborhood. And you're going to the north. If you go to the south, it's the same way. There's 5 or 6 houses, there's 21 houses within a half a mile of here. And they're all on like 5 to 10 acre parcels through there. And I think these people are doing as much as possible, from what I understand, to keep it. If we can't put it in the farmland and we can't put it in the woods, what are we going to do? Float them in the air or something pretty soon? Because they're trying to put it right on the edge of that woods there. And that field to the south, I'm familiar with, is not that good of you're not going to be losing a whole lot. And the whole field to the north will still be available. And I don't think there's a problem.
I like your idea about floating them in the air. The Jetsons did that, if I remember when I watched the cartoon. That's what they did. That might work. Kate?
Mr. Chair, I think this is right for discussion, because if this was in St. Wendell Township, I just think it would happen automatically.
You got that right, Joe. You wouldn't even be arguing like this.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, yes, I have to agree with Joe on that as well. And these are good discussions. And yes, there are other houses in the area, but the question remains about the size of that chunk of property and where they're going to put that home, and we don't know. Or also, we don't know about the future.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. Based upon our last conversation, I'm concerned that if the applicants had asked to put a solar farm here, we would have said no, in light of the fact that a solar farm is a temporary land use that is not actually permanently converting the site from agriculture. This area here, as was talked about by the chair, while the current applicant's daughter may keep the site open for farmland, I am more than willing to bet the next one is going to convert the entire site to grass and leave it for mowed for 10 acres. So I would say, if we're truly interested in preserving the true agricultural character of the county, we see much more risk of a full-time permanent conversion at this site than we did from the previous solar site.
Okay.
Well said.
Number 4, has information been provided regarding the impact property values in the area? Let me make it quick. No, it has not. 5, is there a potential for public health, safety, traffic generation impacts based on the proposed zoning? How will it be addressed?
Minimal. With the addition of one house to the site, it would be a minimal increase in traffic patterns.
6, how does the rezoning affect existing public services, facilities, including schools, parks, streets, utilities?
Again, Mr. Chair, minimum impact with a development of one house.
7, other issues pertinent to the matter.
Mr. Chair, didn't Main Prairie Township vote approve it?
They did. Yep, we'll list that. Have we gotten township interaction on our new? I forgot to ask on all of them. on all our requests tonight? Did we get interaction or not? I'm just curious. Has nothing to do with this one, but.
Mr. Chair, we have township comments or recommendations on the plat and the 3 rezonings, but not the IEPs or CUPs.
But as far as our new process with the comprehensive plan, that specific engagement, do we get?
I believe one or 2 of the rezoning applications used the new form and
Okay,
attempted that.
perfect. Okay, well, that's the end of the findings, so a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Ken Mossman, I will move to approve of rezoning with the I guess there are nothing else. I move to approve.
Okay, motion's been moved to recommend approval of the rezoning. Is there a second?
This is Rich. I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made by Ken, seconded by Rich to recommend approval to the county board. Any discussion? If not, if you're in favor to recommend approval of the board, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay.
Mr. Chair, I guess if it's going to be contentious, I'd like to hear the discussion because, the board's going to have to make a decision on this one as well. So I wouldn't mind hearing rationale for and against if people are willing to express that.
I'd say let's wait till after for that discussion.
Is that okay, Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, go ahead, call the question. Sure.
Okay. Again, the motion was to recommend approval of the rezoning request to the county board. If you're in favor, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. Jason Wienerman?
Nay.
Sean Blackburn?
Aye.
Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Perrell?
Nay.
Rich Blankish?
Aye.
Chair votes no. What is that?
3-3.
Mr. Chair,
Angie?
actually, in preparing for tonight's meeting, I did review the Planning Commission's ordinance and was reminded that if there's a tie in the Planning Commission, which doesn't happen often because usually it's an uneven number, the ordinance indicates that the decision will be made by the commissioners. So I know in the past, years ago, when we've had this happen, we have more discussion and then usually someone might change their vote, but that would not be necessary. Perhaps you could still answer some of the questions that Commissioner Persky had, but you can move forward with a split vote decision to the commissioners.
Got it. You're prepared. Members, Commissioner Persky asked for thoughts. So right now, it would just go without a recommendation to the county board.
Mr. Chair, we would indicate that it was a split vote 3-3, and we could offer some of the reasons for or against.
Sure. So members, if you want to chime in.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'd like to say that I approve of the tie. I'm okay with that. I'm also, of course, there's a great recording of a great conversation we've already had. And I kind of went back and forth on it myself, but I do want these folks to be able to have their home. I understand and appreciate both sides of the discussion.
Okay. Other members?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I just voted on basis of internal consistency. As you had mentioned, we need to look forward. This is an R10 conversion, not just for one landowner, but for perpetuity. It's 10 acres. I think you're correct in the assumption that once this land changes hand, which might be 5 years, it might be 50 years down the road, we're probably going to see a conversion of this land from ag production to residential, lawn, or some other use, which will take the site permanently out of ag production. I'm also concerned about putting the home site basically anywhere on the parcel because you are going to have disturbance to wildlife corridor transports through the area. There's a multitude of different uses here. So I'm concerned that if you take out this ag land, you might seriously impact a renter who might have difficulty finding land in other places. So that was the reason I voted no on this.
Mr. Chair, this is Ken Mossman. I guess I know the person who rents the land. He has plenty other land. This 2 acres or 5 acres or whatever it would be would not affect him in the long run. He isn't going to go under because he loses this year. As far as I've heard, these people are doing everything they can to keep it out of the agricultural area. And there are, on the new plan, we're trying to find places like this where there are small areas in the trees where people can build houses. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And if you drive up and down that road, it's houses all the way through there, through the woods and things. And I don't think it's going to hurt anything in this area here, right? They say 20, 30 years down the road, a lot of things might change 20 or 30 years down the road that we don't know, but I don't see a whole lot of people building up on top in that rocky hill there, a whole lot more people not out of the woods.
And I think from my own perspective, Jason's argument was compelling. I hope he's sincere in continuing to preserve agricultural land. Having lost 14% of the ag land in Stearns County, where our number one pillar immediately was, when we did the comprehensive plan, preserve agricultural land. And that's what I'm concerned about, the 2 biggest things on solar. And so when we have that discussion at the end of this month, disposal, where are these things going to go? And I can't believe that we're being a little short-sighted in that, because there are no landfills. And what they're doing in California is they're digging holes right beside the projects, and they're burying them. And guys, I hate to say it, but I'm a little sensitive to the 5th District, and I'm a little sensitive to my area of Stearns County. That's where the projects are. They're not going to bury them in St. Cloud. They're going to bury them in Western Stearns County. And that's where they want the sand pits. That's where they want the hunting land. Well, we're a county as a whole, and we have to look at this. So Jason's argument was compelling. I'm, as a former, well, current farmer, but more former active farmer, that concerns me. The omens, I hope, will take some relief, and the board will approve this. I'm not a prediction guy, but the board will approve this. We're trying to make a point of the land. I believe that they will place it where they will. I am concerned that that won't last forever, that ag land will be taken out. I'm also concerned that whoever does farm it, and potentially whoever lives in the house, is going to complain about the farm use. And we will have on the abstract that the site sounds and smells of farming pre-existed the plat, I assume, staff, right? Yep, that goes on all the staff. And that's something we did the last time I was on the planning commission. So at least we'll protect a farmer at some point to that degree, but it's just a little concerning. And yep, me too, I could have went either way. If I would have known that this would have been a final decision, I would have been a little bit more hard pressed to vote no. If Jason would have been here, the other Jason, I think it would have been a 4-3 vote. I think we all know each other pretty well where things would go. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. This is a small part of a much bigger discussion that we're going to have at some point. So with that, is that enough?
Yeah, I appreciate the dialogue. I think this is a good thing, even though we're 2.5 hours into it. So I appreciate that.
You bet. Next item is, so the recommendation is 3-3, and the board will make the decision, which they do anyway. There's just no recommendation. Number 6, to consider rezoning request submitted by John and Carolyn Rademacher, Sartell, on behalf of Paul Langendorf. Staff report, please.
To consider a rezoning request submitted by John and Carolyn Rademacher, Sartell, Minnesota, on behalf of Paul Langendorf, St. Joseph, Minnesota, according to section 4.10 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to rezone approximately 10 acres from the A40 zoning district to the R10 zoning district. Property is part of the east half southeast quarter lying west of 30th Avenue North in section 24, St. Wendell Township. So this is another 10 acres requesting to go to R10. A little background, the property that they're requesting to rezone was previously restricted for the plat to the north, Van Vickels Vista, which was recorded several years ago. This was the equivalent land area for that plat. So that will need to get amended if this rezoning is approved. Access is to 30th Avenue North, which is a township road for where this portion of the property is being rezoned. The property also has frontage on County Road 4. It's a mix of tillable land and wetland. It's relatively flat. There aren't really any setback impacts. There are 30 homes and 1 registered feedlot within a half mile of the property. It's rural residential lots and agricultural land in this area. Surrounding zoning is a mix of A40, R5, R10, urban expansion, and municipality. It's not within any overlay districts or areas of concern. This is within the transition area on the comprehensive plan. Land evaluation site assessment is 62.55. And St. Wendell Township did recommend approval of the rezoning. And that's all I have.
I'm muted. I said, did anybody see that coming? Just joking. Members, did you visit the site, Angie?
I did, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're Heidi. That one's Angie. I'll get it right. Members, if you visited the site, say aye. Jason Wienerman?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Burrell?
Aye.
Richard Blankish?
Aye.
Joe Bursky?
Aye.
And the chair was there as well. Applicant introductions. I'm told that John and Carolyn Rademacher are with us. Are you there, John and Carolyn?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, please state your name, address each for the record.
John Rademacher, 712 Oak Pond Drive, Sartell, Minnesota, 56377.
And then Carolyn Rademacher, 712 Oak Pond Drive, Sartell, Minnesota, 56377.
Thank you. Is there anything that you want to add to the staff report?
As of right now, I don't think so. I think we're good right now.
Okay. Discussion from members? Any questions right now or discussion right now, members, or should we go to the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, a question for staff. So what's the zoning on urban expansion? So what's the definition for that?
Urban expansion for a residential density is a 1 home per 40 acres, same as A40 for the urban expansion area. The thought is that that would not develop more densely than that until it's within city limits.
So is that an area for future annexation or?
Yeah, the urban expansion areas are the areas that have an orderly annexation agreement between the township and city already existing.
Okay. And then for the applicant, on that section 24, how much of that section do you own? Because I'm seeing there's a lot of different things that appear to have been parceled off in the past. And I don't have my plat book with me, so I'm just wondering how much of that is under your ownership.
Right now, the property that we're looking at buying, the 10 acres, is my wife's uncle's property, which is Paul Langerdorf. So as of right now, we don't own any of it, but that's what we're working towards, is just that 10 acres to put a house on.
And then, so the uncle owns how much of that then?
I believe
Roughly?
it's almost 90 some acres.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you proposing to build the house to the Rademakers?
We are proposing to build along the township road. I'm gonna look at it.
It would be kind of south along the township road, south. Not quite in the center, more towards, it's kind of hard to describe, but.
It'll be closer to the township road.
Yeah.
Yeah, like right around there.
And again, for staff, we can't specify. Believe it or not, I've seen it where we replatted a 40-acre plat once, and it was in Ean Lake Township, and they built the house literally right in the middle of the 40 acres, which was terrible, and we've all agreed that that was terrible, and you just hope that people have better planning than that. But what are you going to do with the rest of the acreage that your home isn't on?
So the back, there's the back corner back there, pretty much the back half, we're just gonna just leave it be. Let wildlife, stuff like that go in there. And then, you know, I don't want the whole thing to be lawn, because that would be a lot of lawn to mow. But maybe in the future, putting up a shed, and we have a camper, so have a spot to put the camper, and I have an enclosed trailer, and, you know, maybe build a shed where in the future here, after the home is built, we're thinking of somewhere where we could put the camper inside and put the trailer inside, so that doesn't have to be outdoors. I like a neat layout. I don't like things messy, but I do like, we have hunting land by Wadena that I go hunting at. We do believe in taking care of the environment, taking care of the animals out there. So that's why it's kind of nice just leaving that alone and let it be kind of thing. So.
Okay. Any other discussion from the commission, or should we go to the public hearing? We'll open a public hearing. There's no one here. Is there anyone online that wants to share anything? Is anyone online that wants to talk? If not, motion would be in order.
Move to close the public hearing.
I'll second. Mike Pearl.
Jason moves to close the public hearing. Mike Perrell seconds it. Any discussion on that? I assume we don't have any correspondence. Nope. So if you're in favor of closing public hearing, say aye. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Ken Mossman. Mike Perrell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Public hearing's closed. Okay, discussion. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn. I just wanted to point out that we actually got some of the forms that for the township recommendation, which is kind of crazy coming from St. Wendell, but they were actually kind of trying to play along, which is unique.
I think Angie and Commissioner Persky finally got through to him. Okay. Findings. Number one, does the proposal conform to county's comprehensive plan? Future land use map, policy area map, goals and objectives.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I believe it does. It's in the future land use map transition area. So just transitioning between ag and the urban expansion next to it. It is right next to the urban expansion zone, potential annexation, so it's managing the impacts of growth and development. And it's also under rural residential policies. Residential uses in the ag area must embrace comp land factors to minimize conflict between adjacent land uses.
Number 2, is the proposed rezoning compatible with the present and future land uses in the area?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, it is compatible with the Ag 40 and Residential 10 zoning areas there and the future land use map. The low lesser score also makes it a pretty good fit.
3, are there environmental concerns that should be considered as part of the rezoning request?
Mr. Chair, there are some woodlands in the upper northwest part of the quadrant, so it would be nice if the current applicants looked at protecting those, but just a recommendation. Outside of that, I don't see anything that needs to be addressed.
4, has information been provided regarding the impact property values in the area as a result of the rezoning?
Mr. Chair, it has not.
5, is there a potential for public health, safety, traffic generation impacts based on the proposed rezoning, and how will they be addressed?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, the potential impact is minimal.
6, how does the rezoning affect existing public services and facilities, including schools, parks, streets, and utilities?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, again, very minimal effect.
Other issues pertinent to the matter? Nothing, okay. So motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I recommend we forward this to the county board with a recommendation to approve the rezoning from an A40 to the R10.
Jason moves. Is there a second?
This is Rich. I'll second that.
Rich seconds it. Recommend approval of the county board for the December 1st county board meeting. All those in favor say aye when I call your name. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn. Sean?
Aye.
I'm sorry. Ken Mossman. Mike Perrell.
Nay.
Rich Blankish.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. 4-2.
4-2, yep.
Yep.
Passes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would offer to Mike and Ken, was the reason to vote nay on that due to the farmland?
Yes, in this case, the previous case, the people say they intend to rent out the land and continue as it is. This guy came right along and said, no, he doesn't intend to do anything with it. It's just going to be there. So we're going to really completely lose the farmland versus it being rented out for whatever be 5 years. Here it's completely lost. The only thing we know, it's in St. Wendell Township where it would have been approved no matter what we would have voted. So I'm just, it's mostly all farmland there and they're going to do nothing with it.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 7, consider a rezoning request submitted by M&D Investments on behalf of Robert Perskella. Staff report.
To consider a rezoning request submitted by M&D Investments LLC, St. Cloud, Minnesota, on behalf of Robert Pierscala for RDP Investments Limited Partnership, Paynesville, Minnesota, according to Section 4.10 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance Number 439, to rezone approximately 40 acres from the Agriculture 40 zoning district to the Industrial zoning district. Property is the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter in Section 36, St. Wendell Township. So this is rezoning the whole parcel, 40 acres, from A40 to industrial. The plan, if this is approved, is that Trout Wells would be moving their business out to the property. A little background, there was a rezoning request back in April to rezone this to residential. That was approved by the Planning Commission, but it was never moved forward to the county board and has since been withdrawn in anticipation of this industrial request. Access is to County Road 133. Depending on the use out there, it may require a right turn lane to be constructed on that road. It's currently tillable field with a wetland in the northwest corner. There's no setback impacts. It's approximately 27 homes, 3 registered feedlots, and 1 registered feedlot with less than 10 animal units within a half mile. The area is surrounded by tillable farmland and some rural residential lots. Surrounding zoning is agricultural 40 and urban expansion. Property is within the city of St. Cloud priority area A and Sartell drinking water supply management areas. It's within the transition area in the comprehensive plan, and the LISA score is 72.9. St. Wendell Township did recommend approval of this rezoning. That's all I have.
Thank you. Heidi, did you do a staff visit?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Members, if you were there for a site visit, say yes. Jason Wienerman?
Yes.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
Yes.
Mike Perrell?
Yes.
Rich Blankish?
Yes.
Commissioner Persky?
Yes.
And the chair was there as well. Applicant introductions. I'm told Dave and Mark Trout are with us, and David Myers from Rinky Noonan. Are you guys with us?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, staff, and members. Thank you for working overtime. Mark Trout is not online. Possibly Dave Trout is online. But if I may proceed.
Sure.
Dave is on.
Very good. Thank you.
Maybe you want to just state your name and then Dave's name and address for the record, please.
My name is.
Go ahead, David.
David Myers and Rinky Noonan Law Firm, 1015 West St. Germain in St. Cloud. And the Dave Trout. I'm not sure your address, David.
This is David Trout. I'm the D in the M&D partnership there. Address is 26 19th Avenue North in Sartell. I'm about a mile from the property we're discussing here.
Okay, thank you guys. Okay, David, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Trout Well, I presume many of you are familiar with the company. Is a well-known, respected well company here in the Stearns County. They are boxed in Wade Park. They have no place to grow. They have their employees are having a tough time there with parking and equipment and inventory. And so they want to stay in Stearns County and they need a place to move. So they found this 40-acre parcel. It fits their needs. It's on a good road. with access. And their proposal is tonight to rezone the full 40 acres. But their more immediate plan, if this board approves and the county board approves, is to come back for a conditional use permit and believe they would use about 10 acres in that southwest area along the road. And the rest of it would remain in farming. It is important to them to have the full 40 acres because they do not want to get boxed in again. And so that's why they are requesting the rezone. In looking at some of your rules and listening tonight, their access to the road, which is one of the conditions you need to talk about, would be based on the county engineer's recommendation. And I think in the staff report, there's a requirement of a turning lane, and so that will have to be done. The other benefit of this land is they need water in their business in order to operate, and the city facilities, the water is chlorinated and not usable in some cases. You know, in listening tonight, I respect the members in the discussion over the loss of farmland. And I guess what I would say here is there will be some loss of farmland, but the other side of it is this is a business that substantially assists farm communities and farm operations. And so if you are giving up a little bit of farmland, in return, you're getting a company that supports agriculture in the community. Mark Trout told me most of their customers are on the north and west area out here in Stearns County, and which also is an ideal location for the business. Some of you discussed your comprehensive plan tonight, and I was looking at some of the material I was sent and your plan online. Troutwell, of course, helps with the regional prosperity. It's a business-friendly company. It increases the value of county economic production by using the natural resources water. It enhances the ability of local retail and commercial businesses to sustain small cities and rural townships. In addition to farms, you probably know Troutwell does a substantial amount of work for cities in their water supply. In the comp plan under rural business policies, this would not alter the rural character of the area. In fact, it would enhance it because it helps with the farming operations. It utilizes existing infrastructure. It's got the road out there. And part of your goal is to encourage expansion of businesses that help with the rural community. So with that, unless David Trout has more, we'd take questions from the board.
This is Dave. I just would like to make one short comment, and you hit the nail on the head, David. We have many thousands of trips where we travel both west and north to service people's wells when they need water, and they would, we're that much closer to the customer if we go on that side of St. Cloud. On a side note, we really never had intentions on moving, but I don't hope none of the commissioners take this as a slap against them, but when they put the roundabout in and put that road just south of our current shop down to the government center, that pretty much shot our 30-year plan where we were hoping to expand into. And when that road came through, it kind of boxed us in. We really don't have much options. We currently cannot bring all of our equipment home at one time, like in January and February, to work on it and fix it because there's no place to park it. So we have to leave it parked off in the country someplace until we get around to bringing it in. So that's kind of what pushed this to the front burner, and I'll step aside at that.
Okay, thank you, guys. Any discussion before we open up the public hearing by members?
Mr. Chair, question for staff. We're looking at a rezoning to industrial. My concern is the location of that to the expansion, of course, of St. Cloud to the east of that. I have no problem with Trout Wells. I would have no problem with light industrial, but are there options that could come in there that could have an adverse effect to the homes to the east of that? Meaning noise, meaning smells, okay? Whereas Trout Wells isn't going to have any of that. Let's say a welding shop that would produce plows or heavy equipment that would be designed or something like that. I'm concerned about any type of, type of industry that would, produce noise or smells that would be adverse to the properties to the west or to the east of that location.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, yeah, the ordinance outlines all of the uses that are allowed in the industrial zoning district. So there certainly could be other uses allowed out there, provided they meet setback requirements, meet the ordinance requirements. There certainly are other uses that could be allowed on that property.
Mr. Chair, may I address the commissioner?
Sure, go ahead, David.
We worked with staff extensively to determine how trout could get out there with this, and looked at the, what's already permitted or conditional use permits under the ag zone, under the commercial zone, and it looks like this is the only zoning district that we can use with the conditional use permit that we'll have to come back with in the future. So. And the only other thing I can tell you is, and Mark and David have both told me they intend to keep this land because they were boxed in, and any other use would probably require them to come back on a plat or something in the future.
And my point would be, is as far as denial of something that we would consider to be adverse to the community, would we have an ability to deny that? Angie or Heidi?
Mr. Chair, I can comment a bit on some of the discussion. As David indicated, the original idea was, well, could it be an ag-oriented business? Could it be a contractor's yard? And we really realized after looking at the use of the business that wasn't going to fit in either of those areas. That was determined by our department, and the applicants agreed to that, or agreed to this option. In terms of, I wish the law allowed conditional rezonings, but it doesn't. And so, as you've been told and trained and heard again tonight on different requests, you have to take a bit of a leap of faith, to approve something like this if your concern is allowing other uses. To your last point, Commissioner Persky, what you'd want to look at would be the permitted uses. These are things that could happen by right, by staff approving them. Conditional uses would be your more intensive uses. Those are ones that obviously would be in front of the Planning Commission and the County Board. And you do know if you have a right to deny a rezoning or deny a conditional use permit if it does not meet several factors, including character of the area, impact on services. So I would say that you always have that option here and in other rezonings.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, kind of to build on that discussion. So the applicants and their legal representation have expressed interest in coming before us for a conditional use permit if we approve this rezoning request. What would the conditional use permit be? What would you request as a conditional use?
I'm going to defer to Angie. I had some ideas, but Angie had a better idea, so I'll leave it to her.
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, the option would be the catch-all category in the industrial district, which is any land that is consistent with the purpose of the district, which does not expressly prohibit and then it gets into will not constitute a public or private nuisance. So it would be the catch-all category is where that would be heard, and that would be heard by Stearns County. St. Wendell does not hear conditional use permits.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or discussion before we go to the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, Mike Prell. I was just feeling that I would feel more comfortable if I would known if they had researched maybe the possibility of locating in an established industrial park somewhere instead of buying a tract and converting more of our valuable farmland.
May I address that, Mr. Chair?
Sure, go ahead, David.
Yeah, they did. And I think there was something in St. Joseph, and it just wasn't compatible. One of the reasons, like we talked about, in order to operate their business, and even with if they could find a 10-acre tract in an industrial district in a city, they still run to the problem that they've got now. If they start to expand as they continue to do, they're going to be out of space. So I think the hope is that this is going to be their location for decades to come.
Other discussion? We'll go to the public hearing. There's no one here. Is there anyone online that would like to share something on this item? Is there anyone from the public that wants to share something on this item?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I move we close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Mike Prell, I'll second.
Okay, Sean moves, Mike seconds to close the public hearing. I assume no correspondence.
Mr. Chair, I did get an email. The people that wrote the email were referencing a rezoning to residential in their comments. I did clarify, or responded to their email and clarified that it was a rezoning to industrial. Again, they never responded to me, so I can read what they wrote, but it was in reference to a rezoning this A40 to residential. But I can still share it if you want. It's not that long.
I see it's not relevant if it's not residential, so I would say no. Especially if you shared it with them, they would have came back with other comments that were relative. I'd say pass.
Okay.
So no correspondence. Motion's been made and seconded to close public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? If not, if you're for closing the public hearing, say yes. Jason Wienerman?
Yes.
Sean Blackburn?
Yes.
Ken Mossman?
Yes.
Mike Perrell?
Yes.
Rich Blankish?
Yes.
And the chair says yes. So the motion passes, close the public hearing. Further discussion? For the sake of, by the way, David, I can't believe how much you look like your dad. I don't think we've ever met, or you and I, but you certainly look an awful lot like your dad, which is a compliment. But St. Wendell Township, I'm sure, I know Brad's talked to me and others, and you said you listened to our discussion tonight. I think you've probably read some other things. St. Wendell Township, unfortunately, has just been a real sore spot. As you can see that map, absolutely no planning whatsoever. And I drive through there probably once a year, twice a year to do site reviews or something, depending on how active it is. And that's really the only time I get up there. And it's just, we begged them to just say, okay, we're going to build the houses over here. We're going to keep the farmland over here. Certainly industrial use now is a unique, addition to that. And certainly has potential. Categorize some areas as commercial industrial, but just absolutely no planning. It's like a dartboard. And as of tonight, you can't play darts anymore after midnight, I think. So, no, that's tomorrow night. But it's unfortunate. And that's been a sore spot for all of us. This landowner himself bringing the residential, going through the process, and then as Heidi said in the staff report, that it didn't go to the county board. It was because it was at his request it didn't go, because I think he couldn't believe he got rezoned and I believe I voted against that residential rezone. He did get the recommended that he could rezone, and I think he was shocked that he got that. And then when he got that, then he paused it and, was strictly looking at the best options, I think. And, I've never seen that happen in all my years that I've been on planning, where that request has been made and then held on and then revoked and then now brought something else back. But again, Trout Wells has nothing to do with any of that other than now you want to locate here. So it's a leap of faith. I've lost any hope of controlling anything in St. Wendell Township from St. Wendell Township themselves and from the county board. So I'm not going to oppose this because we all know what's going to probably happen anyway. And I'd rather see, quite frankly, a use like this than what we've been doing the last 15, 20 years. So that's my 2 cents.
If it would be appropriate, I have one more question for the applicant.
Go ahead.
So you've mentioned a couple times talking about how the city water is not appropriate. So you're probably going to need to drill a well on the site or access a well on the site. What's your water extraction use going to be from the area in tens of thousands of gallons?
I can answer
yeah,
that.
David, yeah.
Well, we have 2 functions. Obviously, we have to flush the toilets like everybody else. So there would be a residential well to run the, obviously employee bathrooms or whatever. But then we have, when we go to drill somebody's well, we have to fill up about a 3,000 gallon tank, and we need to fill it up pretty quickly. I can't really fill it. 2 things happen with city water. Number 1, speed of filling, and number 2, the chlorine that is currently in the water actually reacts negatively with the drill mud, so we have to add chemicals to counteract that all the time. If it was wintertime, I can't pre-fill my truck because it'll be frozen by morning. So basically, we'd have a high capacity well out there. Harvey currently has a 1,200 gallon minute well there. We put the city wells in, so we obviously have done our research and we fully expect we can get a satisfactory well where we can fill a truck up in about 20 minutes and be on our way out to drill somebody's well.
So do you know how many, just rough ballpark estimate, water usage per year? How many gallons you'll extract per year?
I can break it down like on a daily basis. It's probably about between 3,000 and 5,000 gallons a day when the crews leave in the morning.
Okay.
If we're working out in Melrose or Sauk Center, we will actually try and find a place out there, and we may have to add chemicals to counteract the chlorine or whatever, but basically because trucking costs money, but we always leave with a full thing. So I'd have to do the math. Basically, it's probably.
So as you said, between 3 and 5 per day. Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Trout, you're going to build in the southwest portion of the property, is that correct?
Correct. Actually, I can answer if you're ready there. I thought might have been talking on top of somebody.
Well, my question is going to be, you're going to build in the southwest, and then on the northwest, you've got that wetland there. And so I'm just wondering, with your stormwater plan, were you thinking of taking that water from the entire property to that wetland?
I think that's going to be an engineering question that engineering is going to have to bring to the county and get that approved. I guess I realize fully that when we develop a piece of property, we're going to have a storm retaining pond somewhere. We have already spoken with the current renter, Harvey Roski, and by putting it in the southwest corner, it minimizes his effect, because currently that's a dry land corner that he doesn't water.
Okay. Any other discussion at this point? You want to wrap things up, David?
I have nothing more to add unless Dave Trout does.
David doesn't have nothing to add, okay. Members, no other discussion. We'll go to the findings. Number 1, does the proposal conform to the county's comprehensive plan? Why or why not? future land use map, policy area map, goals and objectives.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn. I'm going to say it is compatible with our comprehensive plan goals and objectives in business, to rural business policies. Number 3, to encourage rural businesses seeking expansion in agricultural areas, to locate near major transportation corridors. We've already determined that this is a transitional area, which is what we want to accomplish in these areas. So this is a move in the right direction.
Number 2, is the proposed rezoning compatible with the present and future land uses in the area?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, it's not compatible with the present land uses, which seem to be ag dominated, but it is potentially compatible with the future land uses of urban expansion and growing development.
3, are there environmental concerns that should be considered as part of the rezoning request?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I think the environmental concerns will be dealt with as they move forward in the next steps.
4, has information been provided regarding the property values as a result of the rezoning?
No, this is Rich.
5, is there a potential for public health, safety, traffic generation impacts based on the proposed rezoning, and how will it be addressed?
There may need to be a turn lane put in on County Road 133 to access the property safely.
6, how does the rezoning affect existing public services, schools, parks, streets, utilities?
Mr. Chair, there will be a slight increase in the traffic area there, certainly. Heavy vehicles.
Number 7, other issues pertinent to the matter. I would say it's the first industrial use request for St. Wendell Township, and just the general discussion concerns that we've had with St. Wendell Township planning as a whole. With that, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, I'll recommend we forward this to the full Board of Commissioners with a recommendation to approve the request for a rezoning from an A40 to the industrial.
Motion's been made by Jason to recommend approval to the county board. Is there a second to that?
I seconded that. Jeff.
Rich Blinkish seconds that. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye for the recommendation of the county board. Jason Wienerman?
Aye.
Nay, by the way, if you're opposed to it. So Jason Wienerman says aye. Sean Blackburn?
Aye.
Ken Mossman?
Aye.
Mike Perrell?
Nay.
Rich Blankish?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So 5-1 recommended to the county board for their December 1st county board meeting.
Thank you very much. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Item number 8, public hearing process. And you, Angie?
Yes, it is. And I don't want to rush too much, but I also will be respectful of the time. So if I'm off base with what I'm presenting, feel free to correct me with what the Planning Commission really wanted us to talk about. But I'll just briefly kind of get into the role of the Planning Commission in the public hearing process. So zoning administrator duties, which would be Shelley and I and Heidi and Jen, is to assist applicants in completing applications, advise them of the requirements. We review and process land use applications. We are required to adhere to state law requirements for public hearing notices. And then, as we did tonight, we advise the Planning Commission on various applications. Our job is to, as the Planning Commissions, to be impartial. We don't, as you know, make recommendations in your staff reports. We present the facts, and so that is our role as zoning administrator. The role of the Planning Commission, obviously, most of this is review, but and I'd like to say this is all from state statute and the Planning Commission ordinance. So looking to your number 1 priority is to look at the comprehensive plan, which we're very familiar with lately. Also recommending to the Board of Commissioners changes to official controls such as zoning codes, various policies and rules to support the comprehensive plan. What you're most familiar with and what happens does happen every month is to conduct public hearings for your CUPs, your IUPs, recommend approval to the county board. Lastly is to review subdivision plats, zoning district boundary changes, and also recommend their decision to the county board. As far as the public hearing procedures, the fancy word in statute is procedural due process, and to offer a fair and impartial proceeding. So under state and federal law, the right to due process means that people have the right to notice, so of notice, and an opportunity to be heard. So basically, applicants have the right to apply, whether or not we think it's a good idea or not. And the Planning Commission has the responsibility to hear them and the public, as does staff, fairly and impartially. So how do we do that? I have the wrong document up, but I think the rest I can is pretty much what you're already going to know. I'm just going to stop my screen real quick. Okay, so what I would like to offer to the Planning Commission is what I did during the solar application. We send notice to townships, cities, watershed districts, lake associations, neighbors within the noticing guidelines. We schedule the public hearing, and the public hearing is not deemed closed until you do that at your meeting. And so if it ever seems to be an opportunity where you would like more information, or there's so much information as was presented last month with Cozy Corners, where you would feel there to be a pause or take a breath, you do have the option to take all the information in, close the public hearing, and then come back with a decision. I know it's been a while since you've done that. I think it was done in the past for a mining operation. So do know that we're tracking the 60 days. We'll help with that. I know that there's been some concerns or comments related to getting things late. And in terms of what those things would be, if it's testimony from either state departments, county departments, the public, township, cities, we take that up until the hearing at this meeting. And so in the event that you'd like to close the hearing and accept no more comments and have a whole month to them, you definitely have that right to do that. So we're open, to talking about that and other ideas that you might have. And if what I just touched on is not what you had in mind, then we would like to hear you and from there.
Mr. Chair, Angie, this is Jason Wienerman. So for that option of potentially continuing a discussion on an application after we close the public hearing, as you mentioned, we sometimes get a lot of input, feedback, public commentary. Would there be a way for staff to provide us a summary of the testimony given at the hearing, similar to what is done in terms of written testimony?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I think what you saw from Myers Cozy Corners Campground was what you just indicated. It was a summary of the written testimony, and then what we could do is just what you indicated. We could further summarize the oral testimony in addition to the fact that the full set of minutes would be done by that next decision.
This was just, Angie, just like a kind of an overview of how we do this. I mean, is there something, and we're beyond the hurting feelings report. So is there something we're doing that we shouldn't be doing? Or we could do better?
No, I don't think so at all, Mr. Chair. We certainly would have those conversations with you. My understanding from Shelley and others is that the Planning Commission wanted to have discussion on the public hearing procedure. So again, if we're not hitting the mark on what you're asking for, please let me know. Otherwise, we absolutely think that the process has been per the statute and per our understanding of your procedures. We just we're trying to get at what your question was, and if we're not, then we need some help.
And this, everybody approaches this a little different. Obviously, I'm honored to be chair. I appreciate being chair. And then the members, I appreciate them sharing concerns with me that they don't necessarily want to always share with staff or whatever, but I drive myself, have higher expectations of myself than hopefully anybody else does. So I want to be at the meeting on time. I want to start the meeting on time. I want to make sure we have the information. I want to make sure that the information is consistent with what is being told to the county board and that we're getting the same information unless something's changed. Then, even letting us know that, but we certainly, and then making sure that everything's correct, because how the information that gets disseminated, how the process goes, reflects on us individually and as a county and as a planning commission. And so I think we all try to do that. So this meeting packets came, at least for me, I think on Wednesday, which was great because doing these site reviews and preparing for the meetings and having full-time jobs and families is more of a commitment than some people might recognize. And then as long as we have the consistent factual information, and if we need to break it down in other ways, like the Lisa score on the actual project area versus the entire area or whatever, then let's have that conversation. But I think it's important to make sure that the information is consistent. And again, unless something's changed. And then getting the information, if we're all working, I got that criticism several times and I feel a pinch. If we start getting 4 or 5 letters that were submitted the day of, I understand that we have to take them and you certainly can share them, but don't expect that all of us will have had a chance to read them. And that's why we still enter them in the public record that night or get copies of them or they're read to us. So those kinds of things. But I think overall, we do the best we can. So anybody, don't call me tomorrow and ask for something. By tonight, be the time to tell Angie if you want something.
Yeah, I
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair, and I agree. We're beyond hurting feelings. So feel free. This is an open process, and we're here to help the Planning Commission and respect constructive feedback.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Shelley.
Just Shelley Benson, that's right. I don't have everybody should know who I am at this point. I think one of the questions was sometimes between Planning Commission and then County Board, I'm getting calls from County Board members asking for additional information. So we provide that information to the board if they've asked for that information. And one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight, which I will get to right after this, is the wetland issue. But that's the information that sometimes they'll call, they'll ask questions because either they've listened to it or they've heard from an applicant or heard from the public. In this case, this last one was Cozy Corners. And then I get calls from commissioners asking about various pieces of information. So we're providing that information to the board members, and it doesn't necessarily flow backward to the planning commission. So I think sometimes that's where there's a feeling of a loss of information. So we'll certainly work to make that a better situation as we get information from or request from the county board, so that you know that's information that's being provided forward as they've requested it.
And I think, Shelley, maybe something to think about is, even though we've already made a recommendation and we've forwarded it onto the board, if you do get that information, I don't think members would be offended if you shared it with us, even though we aren't going to be considering that on a particular item anymore. We could learn from it for a future item that would be similar. So if there is information, I watch very few board meetings. I'm sorry, I still have an active social life and I still have a job, so I certainly don't watch a lot of board meetings. So don't assume that we all hear or know that. As much as I like to watch Persky on TV, I limit how much I watch board meetings. So just share that information with us.
Okay.
Anyway, and if members don't want it, delete it. And those of us that do want it, we'll read it. And again, we'll take it into account for the next item that might be similar to that. So even though it's asked after we leave it, maybe that would be a good way to keep us in the loop. And then just keep us in the loop.
Yep, I appreciate that. And that's one of the things that I was hoping to get from this, is kind of what the expectations are. And then if we're good with that, I can certainly talk about wetlands, or if you want, we can wait on wetlands. But I really do want to get a sense of what you guys are looking for informationally from us as staff related to wetlands. Now that we do have some comprehensive plan things related to wetlands, I think it'd be important to have a discussion.
We'll just wrap it up. Any other input on the process then, guys? Anybody want to say anything? Otherwise, we'll go to wetland. Nope. Okay, go to wetlands. So your question is, what do we want on wetlands?
Well, okay, so there's a couple of things. There's a little blurb in our staff report that talks about wetlands, and we don't say a lot about wetlands, but then there are activities that happen, like in the case of, I'll just use Stamer, for example, where there is something happening in a wetland. Well, we didn't talk about the type of wetland and the fact that it's not a violation of the Wetland Conservation Act, and how much and how deep do you want us to get on that type of information? In fact, I think, as we were pointing out earlier, I think it's important for us to have a LISA score that shows the whole site. And so we get a perspective as well as then the project site. And I think in many cases that will help us understand kind of what's being asked of you to look at, and are there differences between those two? Because sometimes farmers are putting things in the least productive land, but because they own so much land that their LISA score could be higher. So I think it's important for us to kind of look at both of those pieces. But compliance with the Wetland Conservation Act does run the gamut of things. There are exemptions and avoidance and minimization and replacement plans. How in depth would you like us to get in our staff report related to wetlands? We'll provide you information. We just want to know what it is we can help with so that you guys can make good informed decisions. And we can come up with some examples if you need to in the future.
Shelley, with regard to wetlands, and that's Stammer's property, the information we saw from the DNR, they said they discourage placement of the solar gardens in wetlands. But again, that was not very clear as for the type of wetlands.
Right.
Okay.
That's the struggle I'm having, Joe, is that the fact that, it was a farmed wetland essentially for many of the years because we had crop history in some cases. So, it was an exemption in the Wetland Conservation Act that was allowed. So it wasn't a violation of anything. So how much information should we be providing to you so that you understand kind of that function and value of that particular wetland? So I think.
But I guess I would also like to see the position from the DNR, what they actually mean by that. Because again, and I've mentioned, there's a certain amount of what is considered wasteland that is actually wildlife production property, but it's it's taxed as wasteland. Well, farmers and entrepreneurs that want to make as much money as they can, they're not going to put their and we're not going to allow them to put their solar gardens on the agricultural land. Okay, so they're going to look at some of that stuff that's considered to be wasteland, but actually that's high quality habitat for wildlife. And if that's the case, then we're going to be seeing the loss of whatever's left of that land that supports wildlife being used for that. They're already squeezing out through the tiling, through the deforestation, and as far as putting as much land in production as they can, because and I mean I can go on. The fact that the market is where they're at is that you got to squeeze more out of your acres than you have in the past. So it's maybe advantageous to till everything you can, but again it comes at the loss of wildlife habitat. And the same then is true about these solar gardens, is that now we're going to be eating up wildlife habitat for the sake of putting these solar gardens in. So
maybe a little more information related to the natural resource-based DNR focus.
Right. And as far as what they really mean by truly protection of the wetland.
Okay, but they're allowed to farm it currently. In those cases, for example, Stamer was allowed to do the farming. So they wouldn't necessarily be using it for wetland habitat, So this is that balancing we're trying to figure out. I just want to be able to provide you with enough information so that you know that. So I think I have an idea of a couple of things that we need to provide for you so that you can see kind of the diversity of things that could happen on that property. That one, it may be currently farmed, which means it has allowed certain exemptions under the Wetland Conservation Act, but yet it could also be looked at from a habitat perspective. So maybe giving a few of those perspectives in that section of the staff report would be helpful.
Shelley, this is Jason Wienerman here. In terms of the Stamer site, as you were saying, one of the aspects of the wetland in question that actually wasn't much of a concern for me was, as you state, it was a farmed wetland. So what the site was doing was actually potentially improving the function and value of the wetland through a restoration planning, no longer farming it. So I know it's a bit technical, but could there be any value in exploring either degradation or increase in the function and value of the wetland from what it currently is, i.e. if it's a farmed wetland, to what it might become, a restored semi-modified wetland? I mean, would that be of value and interest to other folks on the planning commission?
I guess my only concern, Jason, would be that seems to be a bit beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, I can't see wildlife wanting to run around underneath the panels, and they're not going to be able to eat corn or any kind of vegetation. I mean, maybe the grass. You won't want to bother the bees. So And if you talk to the right person, a farmed wetland in certain areas would be more valuable than a wetland. So that might be a little, what do you want to call it? Potentially there could be conflicts of how that's interpreted. And we got to remember farmland is great. If you graze land, pasture land, that's considered farmland. So farmland isn't always plowed and isn't always tilled or planted. Pasture land, graze land is also considered farmland. In the areas like Painesville Township, Zion Township, I guess I'd like to see when it starts getting cumulative. We don't use that word at the farm a lot, cumulative. When you take it all into, there's 9 farms, 10 farms there now. What's that overall impact of all those? If you take one farm or one wetland or on the edge of a wetland, there must have been some concern even on the county board level because they're the ones that brought up the, did we bring that up about raising the wire and taking away the barbed wire? I think that came from the county board discussion. So there must have been some concern on that level as well about the wetland to have that. But so when you have, if you take away one wetland or potentially parts of 1 or 2 or one farmed field or 2, and then suddenly you have 9 or 10 of them. I know Painesville Township's talked to me and said the next project that they get, they're going to take a pause. I mean, they're starting to get some concerns about how much of a good thing is too much. So it isn't just a few of us that are having that concern. So the bigger, taking it all into account might be another perspective, Shelley, that you can look into.
So cumulative impact is one of the things that you want to have a conversation about.
I personally would like.
Are you talking about solar or are you talking about wetland?
Well, wetlands as a whole, what's it? One project has some effect, 2 projects have some effect. How many on everything? The grid,
right.
The wetland, the site, scenic, everything.
Well, I think that's been the issue that we're trying to understand is the cumulative impact of these things. So I think that's one of our challenges right now. And I think there's going to be further conversation when we come to our December 21st meeting. We're going to be talking about solar at that time. So taking it out of the parking lot and having some conversation because we have some time available at our ordinance meetings. So.
And I know I expressed this concern many times. Why do we have 90+ applications potentially in the process? I can't remember 35 permitted farms in one county. I mean, there's a lot bigger counties up north, and then the next county, the most applications they have are 35. I'm not against solar. Again, if you planted too much corn, or if you planted corn every year, it wasn't good. It affected the soil. If you planted soybeans every year, sugar beets you only can plant every 5 years. So it's nothing out of the norm that we're not used to. You can't have everything in solar. And then of course, mostly in the 5th district.
Okay, so I'll come back with some additional information for you guys for wetlands, and we'll try to beef up the wetland portion of the staff report. And then you guys can let me know what you think, maybe giving a little more information related to Wetland Conservation Act and then some habitat function and value.
And when we get the packets, especially if we're getting them a little earlier now, people have enough time to review the packets. And if they see something that they want more information on, you guys have a couple of days at least to try to react to that before we actually have the meeting. So members have to take it upon themselves to ask for the information as well.
Thank you. Yes, Jeff, please call and ask staff if you have questions.
Kay, anything more on wetlands?
No, I think we'll start with that at this point.
Okay. Then the next order would be minutes. Approve the minutes of the October 15th Planning Commission meeting. The only thing I'd ask is when staff present, I don't know if Nick Newman was present. I think he was coming from home, I think. Maybe just say off-site present, because present to me means right here sitting in front of me like you two are, and Angie or Stephanie in the other room. Not that it really matters, but at least we know where everybody was then. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
This is Rich, second.
Okay, motion is made, second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? If not, those in favor say aye. Jason?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. Other discussion? Anything else? If not,
Just one thing, Mr. Chair. And that relates, I want to go back to one issue, just one thing we could have maybe handled a little bit smoother. On the MDEC property on that pit. Ken, I take your comments about maybe changing the length of time on that pit. But if you should have brought that up during the discussion before we had the vote, you might have been able to have that changed, or even when we were writing the conditions. Because again, with consistency, changing that from 4 acres to 14 acres made a significant difference in that pit. But we can't read your mind, Ken. And I would have probably agreed with you to scale that back because it has a much greater impact at 14 acres than it did at 4 acres. So
I don't think I saw that he had a 30-year till way at the end when we were getting that. I'm sitting here looking because it was on the back page, the second last one. And I thought he got a 30-year permit for that 1 year ago.
Yeah, and I think we could have had some discussion on that. And maybe I can even take that back to the commissioners. But by all means, speak up if you see stuff like that.
See, it wouldn't have been such a big deal, except just the one previous, we told them we haven't approved any 30-year ones in the last few years. They were all a long time ago. And here I'm sitting here looking, and 1 year ago, we approved a 30-year one. It was almost like
right, and I missed that, yeah.
I did too.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I think we're all punch drunk at this time of
got it.
the night. So
I don't have
I
to do
appreciate everybody's effort tonight. Thank you very much.
I don't have to do a vote on it, so I'm just going to adjourn the meeting. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Nice working with you.